Yellow again, everybody, and welcome to a big day of Jim Cornette experience right here on the old podcast. And today, AEW announces it's opening its own hospital to save money on its injury angles, and Danny Hodge's father has a knife. And more of this tomfoolery as joining me now, Hawaiian Brian, the podcasting lion, the king of the Arcadian Vanguard Podcast Network, Mr. Co-host to you. He's the Davy to my Lancer, the great Brian Last, everybody.
Aloha, Jim. A pleasure to be here once again. We're going to have a lot of fun. I look forward to listening to your amazing comments.
No, see, already there's a tell, Brian Last. There is a tell. You've already phrased, I look forward to listening to your comments, which means you are going to try
to stay awake for once.
Hey, goddammit. You're going to try not to talk is what you're going to do because you got a big old fat lip there. You got a big old fat lip. There was a second story cat burglar in the neighborhood, ladies and gentlemen. And Brian Last had a midnight fist fight with him. And he's got a busted lip and he's ashamed of the minor way that it affects his speech that you would not be able to tell except I just let the people know about this.
That's right. It was a cat burglar. No, I was at a BJJ class and I was sparring with Helix.
Oh, no.
Helix Gracie.
No.
And
no, see, I was going to give you the opportunity to tell it, but your daughter headbutted you in the face. She's the one that's been taking the Brazilian jiu-jitsu. And when you didn't give her a big enough slice of cake and ice cream, she said, "Come here, Dad." Bam.
No, what happened? Realistically, what happened was I went to give my daughter a kiss thinking she was asleep. And I bent over to give her a kiss on her head just to tell her I love her, have a good night's sleep. And she, not knowing I was there, moved her head up and just headbutted me as hard and fast as I've ever been headbutted. And I've been headbutted a few times. And it got me really good, busted my lip, and who knows what else.
Who knows what it could be? You know, are you going to start a GoFundMe like Psycho Stu for these major facial damages?
Busted Brian's GoFundMe. Please help me with my busted lip.
How long did it take you to regain consciousness?
Well, that's the other problem. I enjoy entertaining my family, so anything mild that happens all throughout the day, I take a bump. You know, this is my chance. This is my canvas here. If I could almost trip, I will absolutely trip and take a big bump in front of my family to get a pop, so they're used to it. So I go down selling, and they think I'm selling. They don't think I'm really hurt. They're laughing at me, and then I get up, and they saw the blood, and they stopped laughing.
I thought you were going to say that normally you like to entertain your family by having severe injuries or getting brain damage or whatever.
I mentioned I like getting headbutted. It's a family tradition here. So I will not be talking at all after this opening segment. It'll all be Jim. All the time.
See, you have already articulated. You're smoother with a fat lip than any other podcaster out there. You've just articulated better than most of the knuckle-dragging, mouth-breathing cretins that occupy these airwaves these days, or these interwebs, or currents that are flowing and streaming through the air. You're all right. You're doing good.
Well, I mean, make no mistake, even today, feeling under the weather and having a busted lip, I'm still better than everyone.
Oh, now you're under the weather too. Is there's some illness involved also?
I'm feeling.
Why if you're contagiously diseased, why were you bending over?
Contagiously diseased
to put germs on your loving daughter's head? No wonder she headbutted you. Get away from me! You goddamn spreading the plague.
I woke up this morning feeling puny, as some may say, with a little bit of a sore throat, feeling it in my head. Just nothing's going right. I feel only slightly better than the AEW ratings right now. No, I feel awful, but we're gonna have a good show. It's been so much fun so far.
Oh yeah, well, yes. I'm just glad you're setting the expectations as low as possible. Do you need to take your blood pressure? Use a rectal thermometer? Do we need an EMT standing by? You think you're going to get through the?
I have some Dayquil here, 2 Dayquil tablets I'll be taking shortly. because I think I may have a mild fever. But
Fever in the morning.
The
and
cure for
fever
my
all
fever.
through the show. They give me fever.
that's actually kind of in your key. You pulled that off.
Well, thank you very much. Well, speaking of pulling things off, why don't you just take the tourniquets off? And if you start bleeding again, let us know when you're 2 quarts low.
Okay, primetime.
And I, actually, the first thing that I was going to say on the show today, until you just blurted out a lot of this nonsense, some of which I did not even know, bare details is all I was aware of, that I was going to say, feel better soon. And you've stolen the thunder here, but feel better soon to Stacy's mother, Jan, who's been in the hospital again all week this week. And the people who listen to the program regularly know she's been in the hospital several times over about the last 12, 14 months. So they must like her. They keep bringing her back at various ways, but she entertains them, I think. But, so I've been trying to keep up on the news there while also keeping up on the wrestling news and everything. But we want to tell her to feel better sooner. They're threatening to let her come home in the next couple of days. So she is feeling better.
And hopefully this time she learns her lesson and stays away from your cooking.
Hey, no, it had nothing to do. I wasn't even there. I was not even there this time. It was someone else that put the poison in. No, it was just completely unrelated. But anyway, so I apologize again if I'm not up on all the stupid things that people, because it's coming so fast and furious, Brian, when people say the stupid things and do the stupid things in wrestling over the past few days. That's pretty much the interesting thing about wrestling these days, is who involved with it is going to say or do something stupid over the course of a period of time, rather than the actual programming. Can you deny this?
No, a lot of the things you see on TV, it's less about what you're seeing on TV, more about you can't wait to hear what the fallout's going to be in real life. Who's arguing with who? Does Nikki Bella have a problem with Wade Barrett? Does Wade Barrett give a fuck? Like, these kind of things are the things I think wrestling fans live for nowadays.
Oh, and that's the thing. I'm going to apologize to the listeners out there, to the Cult of Cornette members, because I know that I have not been myself. Brian, you can concur with this, that I have a reputation for the longtime listeners, for the people who followed the show for ages and ages, of being a cheerful person, an upbeat, a positive person, never critical, never down, never grumpy, always sunshine, lollipops, rainbows, and waterfalls. Troubles and stress just run off my back like a duck's feathers in mobile oil, or whatever the fuck that saying is. I don't know. Somehow the duck has feathers that cause trouble to run away or something. But normally, I'm never grumpy and cranky and old and cantankerous and miserable. I feel like I've been that lately, but you can concur that is certainly not my reputation on a long-term basis.
Certainly not with people who aren't strangers, no.
So anyway, I've been trying to come up with something, and I've been working on a project to try to alleviate my stress with everybody's health issues and the family and all the stuff we've had going on this year. Not a lot of time to jump up and kick my heels and come on, shake your body, baby, do the conga, that type of thing. But I wanted to do something fun to alleviate my stress. So I ended up giving myself a whole different kind of stress. But over the last 6 months or so, it has been fun in spurts. And my announcement that I've been teasing for the past couple of weeks is, the new Cornette book's here. The new Cornette book's here. It's not as big as a phone book, but it's more interesting. Brian, I've been obviously telling you about this project and my aches and pains with it, or what I found, or what I'm doing. But for the folks out there, at the risk of boring you, Brian, so you can continue with the ice pack on your mouth, I was at the grocery store checkout line, trying not to stare at the people who didn't have their shit together that were delaying me in the course of my business. And I would stare at the racks of the collector's books they'd have, on Elvis or on the world of Disney or the Beatles or classic horror films, whatever the case, where they got the nice, it's a variety of articles about the subject and the color pictures and the memorabilia reproduced. And I said, somebody ought to do that for wrestling. And then at the same time, for a while in the back of my head, is over a period of almost 10 years, from like 2012 to, I was close to 2020 or thereabouts. These years are starting to blur together. I wrote a monthly column for Fighting Spirit magazine, which was the dominant newsstand wrestling magazine in the United Kingdom at that point in time. It's since experienced its demise, but I understand I was not a contributory factor. But I had a lot of writing that had never been seen in the United States and actually had not been seen anywhere in its entirety in print because, I have a problem with being brief. You may have noticed that, Brian, that I have a problem with brevity. But anyway, so I always thought, well, I ought to put those columns together in some type of compilation. And then I thought, why don't I just do both? So that's what I've been working on. It's an 8.5 by 11, 100-page collector's book in color, except for the people who are sold, they're still in black and white. Like you would find on the racks of the newsstand or whatever, or the grocery checkout line, but it's on wrestling instead of these off-brand things that most people like. And in trying to come up with how to put this together, I went through the columns that I'd written. And there were some pieces of writing that I was especially proud of. But it couldn't be all over the page, so I kind of culled it down to the best pieces that I'd written either on wrestling stars that had passed during the time I was writing the column, or wrestling stars of the past that had passed but had great careers that impacted me. And then when I sat down with those, I rewrote almost everything because it's been years later. I forgot to say things the first time and I can't leave anything alone. And I added a few new pieces based on what I was doing while I was getting there. But my theme came together. It was stars in the wrestling business that I was either a fan of when I was a fan, or had personal interaction with in the business, or both, that one became the other. Hence, the title of it is Heroes and Friends. Because this is 12 guys with, I think, unique and fascinating stories. Whether, even if they weren't wrestlers, some of these guys would have, if they were the world's best sign painter at one time, they still had fascinating stories, unique lives. And these pieces are kind of part biography, part historical perspective and information that some that we impart here on the show, part personal interactions and stories of whether I was 17 years old or 50 years old when I interacted with these people. And then we have taken, and Brian, again, you were involved here because you gave me access to the Wrestling News Archive, which is, well, we could do a phone book and not even scratch the surface, but a couple of things that I needed, because you have everything, you were able to have that, and a few other people I'll thank over the course of time as weeks go on. But there's about 100 pictures and illustrations from my collection, the Wrestling News Archive, in various places. Some of these not seen in decades, and some I would say never seen by the public. And I know that That's true because I took a few of these things and they've not been released. This is also the first publication using some of my wrestling photography directly from the negatives. Since, as we've talked about on the program here, that we're starting this project going through my original negatives and jumping Jehoshaphat, what you could get on a print from a negative in 1979 has changed significantly in 2025. Brian, I may have been as good as Francesco Scavullo and never realized it. I don't know what the fuck is going. If it didn't look like that then, I could have raised the prices back then that we were selling them at. But anyway, the 12 guys that this book features, and we're not going to go over everything in detail today, but we'll talk about this again as the weeks go on. Chapter 1 is Bobby Heenan. And I think that's kind of self-explanatory because we wouldn't be sitting here talking now because I probably would have never been involved in wrestling if I hadn't seen Bobby Heenan. Bobby Heenan, The Sheik, Bruno Sammartino, Ray Stevens, The Dream Machine, Paul Bearer, Vader, Boo Bradley. And I know people are going to say, well, one of these things doesn't fit. I liked Boo. I had a personal interaction with Boo during the period of time he worked for me at Smoky Mountain. He had passed away while I was writing the column. And I did it based on how I had been introduced to him and my interaction with him. And Brian Elliott, who was the editor of Fighting Spirit at the time, said that it was one of the best pieces of writing in general that he'd ever published in a magazine. And it kind of encapsulated the way I felt about Boo and his experiences in the business. So he's involved. And Sputnik Monroe. Go ahead where you're going to say something.
Well, some fans, again, there are some younger fans and some fans who
I forgot
with Smoky Mountain.
Who would he be? Balls Mahoney, if you're one of the kids out there. But his first break in wrestling and television spot was in Smoky Mountain as Boo Bradley, Chris Candido's childhood friend. Managed by the evil and vindictive Tammy Fitch, who would later on go on to have Sunny Days.
Did she ask you to change Sitch to Fitch, or did you do that?
No, I thought that's what it was. I thought that's what when she had it, because they had the New Jersey accent. So I'd already written down Tammy Fitch. She said, no, it's Sitch. I said, well, it's Fitch now. We've done the notes. So Bob Caudle can't fucking make these last minute changes. The fuck? Anyway, I told her that way. At that point, there was no internet. People won't be able to fucking look you up. Consider it a blessing.
Yeah, really.
But anyway, the other people involved, Sputnik Monroe, Lance Russell, Ron Wright, and finally, and my favorite chapter, Pat Malone, the Green Shadow. And we've been teasing people with talk about Pat Malone, but his story is here, all the stories that we've told together with facts and figures and pictures. And I think it's the best one of the bunch because it's the one that almost everybody that buys this book will learn something from, no matter what kind of a wrestling expert they think they are, because he's the unknown story that we're finally getting a chance to tell. But some of these pictures are cool. And again, the Lance Russell chapter, we've found enough of my negatives. The best pictures that I have seen of Lance and Dave, Lance and Lawler, Lance and Hulk Hogan on the Memphis wrestling set, coming off of these negatives 45 years later or whatever. And Hotchkiss Featherbottom has been a gem in all of this. Said, oh, here's what you do with this high resolution scanner, and then boom, and you put it through the thing. And I'm like, God damn. Again, I should have charged more money back then.
Do you have Lance at Jerry Jarrett's house party?
Lance was not there.
Oh, I thought Lance saw the house, and that was one of the things that triggered everything with him and Lawler.
No, Lawler heard about the house. And Lawler wasn't there either. No, I remember I got pictures of Stan and Steve because they were about to debut as the Fabulous Ones, and that was Jarrett's pet gimmick. Dundee was there because he was obviously the booker. There may have been a couple of the other boys there, and I'm trying to think, but there wasn't a lot. And Lawler was definitely not there, and Lance didn't come.
Lawler was intentionally not invited, or Lawler didn't want to go?
I don't know. I wasn't the mailman carrying the invitations out. But no, Lawler wasn't there. Now, Lawler lived in Memphis at the time, and all these guys lived in Nashville right down the street. But no, Lawler heard plenty about the house. 18,000 square feet and the fucking ballroom and the gold fixtures and the 100 acres that it sat on the mountaintop of. And why am I down here on Walnut Creek Road? Yes. But anyway, but that's the thing is there's all kinds of high-end merchandise for modern wrestling. And you can get, the high resolution copies of Cody Rhodes's dental x-rays autographed and framed from Fanatics or whatever. And you and I have talked about this. There's not a lot of higher end, color collector's books on classic wrestling. I found out why when I saw what this thing was going to cost and the time it took to set it up, but there's not a lot in that space.
There's almost nothing in that space. It's always been one of my big things. And, I'll probably be doing some projects down the road too with things from the archive. But, if you look at music, for instance, there's a magazine I've always loved. I've been getting it since I was 19, Mojo Magazine from England. And it's high-end writing, and it's high-end photography, and it's a nice layout. Nothing looks cheap. Good slick paper. My thinking has always been, why can't that be done for wrestling? Especially if you have an audience, if you have the people who actually care about this kind of thing. You look at whatever's out there now, and it's just everything, it's covering modern wrestling, which is a different animal than covering classic wrestling, but just the look and the layout and everything, it's not what appeals to me. When I see PWI on a newsstand at Barnes & Noble, it just, the look of it doesn't appeal to me. The look alone.
And to clarify, we're not talking about the biographies. We talk where Brian Solomon has just written about Gorilla Monsoon. We're talking more of the more visual, photo illustrated magazine, photo tabletop, coffee top, fucking Rocky Top, whatever kind of books that because I wanted to be able to see if it's about the Beatles, they're showing there's their first 45 on the blah, blah, blah. So here, not only do you see in Bobby Heenan's chapter, he made a set of knucks at a Legends event we were at that he could knock me out with because he was managing the baby faces. And is the same way that I did it. Of course, he was doing it first, and somebody different taught me, but it was so cool. He took the white tape and around the cardboard and made the blah, blah, blah. And after he hit me with them and knocked me out, he fucking signed them for me. And I've got them. So there's a picture of that. We've talked about Ron Wright's chisel in the stories about Ron Wright and those crazy days in East Tennessee when they used to get juice that way. Well, there's a picture of the chisel that may never have been seen, at least in color, in public before. Shit like some stuff on Sputnik Monroe to not only back up the famous stories about him helping integrate the seating at the Ellis Auditorium and the ones everybody knows, and Sputnik and the Cowboy, but just some of his other lunatic adventures. So anyway, it's and there's more modern shit too, that all the way up to Vader was around even 25 years ago. So son of a gun. I've hit all eras. But besides the pictures and the memorabilia and the history and et cetera, I'm proud of these pieces of writing because, as I said, the main thing was what put them together to make a theme of the book to me was that they were heroes and friends. They had been both people I was a fan of and or personally interacted with or both. But also these stories are just insane when you set them down on paper. And hopefully I have. There's a lot of the wrestling journalists out there, Brian, and the people with supposed degrees in journalism, the creative folks. But I would invite everybody out there to compare mine with theirs. I may not be a Solomon or a Hornbaker, but I turn a fairly decent phrase. And don't be scared when we talk about how high end this son of a bitch is. It's $24.95, and that includes my autograph. Because I wasn't going to do that to people. It's still, within the realm of reasonability for the common folks out there and stocking stuffers. Actually, if anybody in your family wears a stocking that's the shape of would be appropriate to put this fucking magazine in without rolling it up like a ball, you probably need to send them to the doctor. But it's a good gift giver also. And did I mention that the holiday sale at Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com will start this year, Saturday, October 11th at noon Eastern. And that's when this book will go on sale. But we're working on getting banners up on the website so that everybody can see what it looks like and what's going on. Brian, how many could I put you down for?
At least one. Maybe two.
Well, now don't go crazy for the whole, the whole family. Maybe pass them out down the street, stick them in mailboxes.
Well, we'll see about that. But as a photographer and as the photographer for the photos you were talking about before, what's it like for you after all these years to see these photos that you know pretty well? You know your material from 40, 45 years ago.
Yeah.
At a higher resolution than you've ever seen it before.
It's amazing. That's what because again, even if you had, in those days, if you took a picture on a roll of film, had the film developed and your first set of prints made off of that roll, right? That's as clean as they were ever going to be. Because invariably, no matter how careful you were, at some point, if you reprinted negatives, especially several times, they're going to be exposed to dust. There's going to be a scratch. There's going to be something, right? Well, many of my negatives are almost all are pretty pristine, but some of them have been printed several times in the past. And you could see, at some points, you could see dust, or you could see a little smidge or a scratch or whatever. And no, this not only is that gone, but also just the resolution, I guess what I'm trying to say, because I look at the prints, I still have all these prints from the 70s. And then I've looked at the test prints that we've made based on the new images that can be scanned off these negatives, and also seen what they look like when you put them in to set up the printing process. I'm like, holy Jesus Christ. This shit would have been worth Time magazine in the 70s. So again, hopefully I'll live long enough for the estimate is now 70 to 80 or 90,000 frames I might have over here in negatives, but we're going to see what this shit looks like here one way or the other. But it's an amazing difference in just the quality of the print that you can make now, the detail that you can get in it versus what you were limited to. And remember in the 80s, Bill Apter said, please send me black and white pictures for the magazine because color pictures didn't reproduce as well in his black and white magazine because of the printing limitations of the time. Now you can just send a goddamn picture that you can print and hang on your wall through an email and be downloaded and zapped at Walgreens, and it looks better than the shit we could do then. But on the negatives, the information is there. If it was in focus and the exposure was right, you got a world of information now that you can get out of that thing to where it's like you're looking through a fucking window rather than seeing a picture that's been reprinted off a negative.
What exciting.
Am I boring you, or have you lost the ability to, is your face swollen up like Planet of the Apes yet?
I can't wait to actually get my hands on this and see it and read through it. Some of these articles I've read previously, but it's been, 10 years?
Well, and actually I rewrote everything anyway, so a lot of them they don't bear a lot of resemblance. There's a couple I saved because of Paul Bear's, it just was kind of almost, and there's one of these, and I'll quit talking about it. Every time I read this thing, and I've read it 50 times, it makes me start crying. It's the Lance Russell. Because I wanted to do something, write something that was deserving of not only what a great person Lance Russell was, but how important he was to the wrestling that people even watch today. And I think I make that case in this piece that not only was he a big deal in his market, but that he helped so many people that went on to influence the business in so many ways and did so many things that influence, etc. And also just to illustrate how much people loved this guy. And so that may be my favorite. I don't know. They're all my little babies. Anyway.
Was it as enjoyable as it was in the past when you would lay out a program or a magazine to do this?
Well, no, this is, I mean, the programs and the magazines were always like, oh, Jesus Christ, we've got to have this done in 2 days. We need to sell a couple thousand of these, make 50 here, right? Boo, here's a picture. Goddamn, stick this in. And even writing a magazine article, you're on a monthly deadline and a certain amount of space. So this was, and all the books that I've done are different because the Midnight Express scrapbook was one whole completely different thing. And then the Gardens book and the Rags, Paper, and Pens about the Memphis merchandising were the more historical fact book for the historical nerds on one specific subject. And Behind the Curtain was a graphic novel. And I think this is a completely different thing again, but it's fun because I get to use all the pictures and the memorabilia and the things that are cool related to these people that, I mean, even the publicity pictures that were widely circulated at the time of some of these people are not really well seen today. It's not any big deal to me to pull out a picture of Pat Malone and Ginger the Bear from 1950 something and go, oh shit, I forgot nobody's seen this in 70 fucking years. So I think that's more fun because I not only get to write, but we also get to put a lot of this stuff together.
Well, again, very cool. When is it going on sale?
Saturday, October 11th at noon Eastern at jimcornette.com, since you happen to ask.
All right. When will the website crash?
And no, we're uncrashable now. We're unsinkable. Remember, we got Hotchkiss Featherbottom, and I'm telling you, he's bulletproof.
The unsinkable Hotchkiss Featherbottom.
The unsinkable Hotchkiss Featherbottom. He fingered Molly Brown one time in high school.
Come on. That's disrespectful. So That's disrespectful too.
Well, to which one? That's what I'd like to know. See, now.
Well, we've sunk to a new low.
Yes. I'm taking a drink.
I could use one too. What do you got going on?
No, it's a Sprite Zero, for heaven. I just needed something to wet my whistle, as Mama Cornette would say. And speaking of Speaking of being all wet, did you hear what happened in the news? Did you hear who got in legal difficulties, Brian? Did you hear who got arrested?
Who got arrested that was like a big deal, the story? No, I don't know.
It was a pretty unusual thing that happened. Something you don't see every day or find around the house. You didn't see this, did you?
I'm not sure where you're going, no.
Chuck E. Cheese got arrested. Walked out of the restaurant in handcuffs. You didn't see this on the news? They had body cam footage.
I must have missed this. You watch what is this, your furry news that you watch? Where did you see this story?
No, this was on, it was actually, I saw it both on the local news and on the national news, and it was repeated in various day parts of the local news, but I was watching it and I didn't even pay attention to the location of the place. I don't know where it was in the United States, but I'm sure it's the only time it's happened this week. So if you're interested, you can Google it. But the cops went into a Chuck E. Cheese. And well, you got kids. You've been at Chuck E. Cheese where they have the guy that's Chucky. The fucking, what is he, a rabbit? I don't know what kind of animal he is.
Or a rat.
A
right?
mouse?
A mouse, not a rat. A mouse.
Well, he's a rat now. He's a fucking, what kind of bird don't fly? He's a jailbird.
He's a mouse. He loves cheese. That's why he's at Chucky. That's why his name is Chuck E. Cheese.
Well, there you go. Well, old Chucky, the cops went into Chuck E. Cheese's restaurant and they went right up to Chucky in costume and turned him around and handcuffed his ass and walked him out the parking lot and put him in the fucking squad car.
With the head on?
With the head on. They didn't take the fucking head off until he was standing outside the police car. There is video. They walked a fucking giant mouse in handcuffs past the children. The restaurant was open. Think of the children, Brian. What would you do if you took your children to Chuck E. Cheese and the cops came in and and he was doing a photo op. They took him out of the photo op with the fucking... Yes, and said, come here. We need to talk to you.
Well, hold on. What was he arrested for? We haven't even said that. What did he do?
Well, here's the thing. Old Chucky had a side job. Apparently, this woman called the police and said, hey, I was at Chuck E. Cheese and they stole my credit card.
Oh.
And I believe that Chucky might have my credit card. And then the cops came and they pulled her credit card out of Chucky's fucking pocket or pouch or whatever a mouse has that he keeps his credit cards in. My face hurts from telling
That's
this story.
That's a great idea for like a burglar. Like I'll get a job at a theme park in a costume where I could hug everyone and pat everyone on the back and they wouldn't think anything of it. Of course, Mickey Mouse is patting me on the back.
And in reality, it's the Artful Dodger. But wow. The thing is, but I'm not excusing Chucky must go to jail. Chucky got to go down. Chucky's in trouble. Yes, he is.
They can't get Roger Jackson, but Chuck E. Cheese is off the streets, ladies and gentlemen.
They sent a team in. Roger Jackson is still hanging around, but they sent a team in but here, can both of these things be wrong? Chucky must go to pay penance for his sins of stealing a credit card, especially on duty in uniform. See, that's a betrayal of the public trust. But did the cops have to? Couldn't they at least have taken his head off in the restaurant to show the little children that it was some goddamn...
that's probably why they didn't. That's probably the exact reason. You just hit your head.
No, but they can say it's a fake. It's a fake Chucky. It's not the real Chucky.
But the kids don't know that.
The real Chucky's a good person. This is a fake. See, we're arresting him for being a Chucky imposter.
Would you arrest a Santa Claus in front of kids?
You can't put Santa Claus in handcuffs and perp walk him out the goddamn door in front of children, can you?
Well, because it would destroy the myth of... I mean, this is clearly not Santa Claus at that point.
Well, it would give them some kind of bad taste in their mouth about Christmas and Santa Claus. Now these people, they're going to grow up and hate pizza like you do.
No.
Is that what happened to you, Brian?
I love pizza. You don't have any respect for pizza.
Did you see Chucky? Were you digging into some goddamn pepperoni sausage pizza as a child, and then all of a sudden you saw Chucky perp walked out and fucking frisked over the cop car?
Yeah, you figured it out.
And then you've got trauma.
You know, at these kids' birthday parties, they don't typically have sausage and bacon pizza, whatever the fuck you eat. They have regular pizza.
Hey, if I went to a party and didn't have any kind of meat on pizza, I'd fucking leave the goddamn party, even when I was a kid. What kind of fucking cheap ass?
If you're a parent, you could explain away Chucky leaving with the police, like, oh, they want to talk to their friend Chucky. Maybe he's helping them.
No, they want to talk to him. That's why they put him in handcuffs and the guy's got his hands on him as he's fucking walking him out.
Oh, they're playing some kind of game that they always play. But if you take the head off, you'll ruin the whole thing. These kids are going to be traumatized.
Well, but no, because Chucky is screaming, I work here. And the cop's saying, I know you work here.
Is that what happened? He was screaming, I work here?
Yes. Oh, no. I work here. I know you work here.
What was the giveaway?
The clue. Because normally, if you just go into most pizza places at lunchtime, you're going to see giant mice.
Now, Chucky, from the best of my memory, Chuck E. Cheese, they used to have an animatronic band. I don't think they have that anymore, but he always had friends. He had other furry creatures who love pizza. What were they doing? Were they there at all for this?
Not one of these son of a bitches stepped up to vouch for him, I'll tell you that. They were all hiding in their dens and burrows, apparently.
You see, there's more loyalty in McDonald land.
Oh, yeah, all of them stick together. Well, it's because of Mayor McCheese and his lax policies.
So what happened? Did he get charged with anything? Does he have a name?
Yes.
He'd ready to shut up for the trial in the same outfit now that they've established.
Google his goddamn name.
Hold on.
Don't Google his name. Chucky. Google Chucky. No, Google Chucky arrested. I guarantee you.
Oh, it was the first thing that popped up. Chuck E. Cheese arrested. This is from CNN. Newly released video. Hold on. I have to agree to something here. Newly released video shows a man arrested while wearing a Chuck E. Cheese costume. Police in Florida have released body cam footage. So it's Florida, of course.
Yeah.
He was charged with credit card theft and fraud charges.
Oh, what was his name? Did they give his real given Christian name, or is he still known as Chucky?
They did not have a name there. Hold on. Let me go to this Tallahassee newspaper. It wants me to pay $1 for the first month. I don't want any months. I want for one article, assholes. The confusion and anger of children and their parents at a Chuck E. Cheese in Tallahassee, Florida has gone viral in newly released body cam footage of a mascot being escorted out of the location in handcuffs. Does it have his name? His name is Jermel Jarreau Jones, and he's 41 years old.
Jamel Jarreau Jones.
I wonder if he's named after Al Jarreau. Well, at least the Jarreau part.
I was thinking of Al Jarreau. That could possibly be, but also perhaps his parents were Spider-Man fans and they just wanted their own J. Jonah Jameson.
You ever see that We Are the World documentary where it's a pretty cool documentary. They're recounting how the whole thing happened. I think right after the American Music Awards, and Al Jarreau is bombed. He got drunk as soon as they got there. He's like, well, he's getting in the mood of saving children, I guess, and he just got bombed, completely drunk. I have audio. Hold on, I have some audio here, Jim. Let's get this playing.
What?
Here's Chucky's, here's the body cam of Chucky. Here he is in his outfit with a bunch of kids and a family there. Let's see.
A little bit busy, ma'am. Chucky, come with me, Chucky. Come on. Come with Chucky. Chucky, stop resisting. Stop resisting. You're being detained. Stop resisting. Let it go. Let it go. Do not cause a scene here, sir.
Oh, goodness.
Let me stop it for a second. This is CBS out of Chicago.
Chucky, stop resisting, Chucky.
That the fact that they're calling him Chucky, I mean, that makes it seem fake. It doesn't even seem real.
Here the kids go, no. Mother, no.
Oh, my God. This is so funny. Well, there it is. Chuck E. Cheese arrest. Oh, here's the entire 20-minute body cam footage.
A Chuck E. Cheese customer reported a worker to police after seeing he used her stolen credit card on camera. An officer first went into the Chuck E. Cheese to use the bathroom and try to identify the suspect.
Oh, this is them. Well, here's him getting arrested. Let's see.
I'm going to talk to you in a minute and let you know what's going on, okay? All right, that's fine.
I don't know if you can hear him. He's muffled, but they have it up here. I don't know shit about nothing, is what he's saying. I'm working, entertaining kids for a living.
I'm working, entertaining kids for a living.
I got you, buddy. Come over here.
Fuck y'all.
You got anything on you? Come poke me, stick me, stab me. You got anything on you?
He's still in the mask. They're frisking him. He's in the.
Does this come off, man? Does this just come off the top? I don't want to hurt you.
I work here.
There you go.
I'm just doing my job.
I understand you work here.
What the fuck is
He
this
put the
about?
Chuck E. Cheese head on the roof of the cop car, so maybe it wasn't about not traumatizing the kids at all.
Yeah, they cut Chucky's head off and they're displaying it like a trophy, children.
When he said, "Does this come off?" he should have said no.
Yeah.
Right? Why would you say yeah? Why would you say no?
What if he's the guy who tries to pull on it? He's going, ow, ow, ow.
We're gonna talk to you.
Talk to you in a second.
How does this come off, man? Is it just like a normal?
Can I get that? I gotta take this back. This is my work stuff.
Okay, take care of that.
Yeah, we'll do it. Put him in the car and read him, and then go from there.
Man, what is
Search him as
going
best you
on,
can.
man?
I know he's probably got internal pants, but
I gotta take all this stuff off, man. I gotta get him dressed. What is going on?
just pat him down. Just pat him down for now. I just make sure there's nothing crazy. You have any weapons, knives?
I don't
Cheese.
carry weapons.
Okay, perfect.
They're putting him in the cop car, and again, this is a 20-minute video.
You think he had any contraband cheese shoved up his ass to take to the pen?
The name of the video is Chuck E. Cheese mascot steals credit card and regrets it. All right, well, it's this kind of news that you can only get here on this show. There's only one wrestling podcast out there giving you the latest wrestling news, wrestling history, as well as mascots going down. And that's the Jim Cornette Experience.
Where's Ricky Lee Jones when you need her? The Chucky's in jail. Yes, he is. Chucky's.
When you first said Chucky got arrested, I don't know why. My first thought was Dances with Dudley got arrested.
I was thinking of the Chucky, the redheaded Chucky doll, Chucky, but they never arrest Chucky. They don't have the guts.
Did you see that when it first came out? I know you were working a lot, but Child's Play?
Yes. Oh, yes.
What'd you think?
I love that type of thing. The spooky.
That type of thing.
That type of the spooky doll, the haunted doll. It goes all the way back to Telly Savalas and the Talking Tina episode of The Twilight Zone, or the various other TV movies with the voodoo dolls with Karen Black and all the animated
that's still
horrified.
Scary. That's still
Yes.
scary. The Karen Black one, yeah.
Yeah, she was a little spooky too, till you got to know her.
Well, the name didn't help. Just sounds so.
So final.
Yeah.
Fade to black. Well, let's fade to another subject. You want to? I got something here, Brian, that surprised the heck out of me. And this is more information from the Pfefer Files up there in Notre Dame, but also can be cross-referenced with the fine Wrestling at the Garden book, The Battle for New York, Scott Teal, crowbarpress.com, The History of Wrestling in Madison Square Garden, to indicate that I think the payoffs for Madison Square Garden may have gone down when Vince Sr. took over, because I got, again, just two shows here we want to talk about. But Ricki Starr payoffs for March 1957, two shows in Madison Square Garden, where he was not even the main event on either one of them. But he was a top attraction at the time. Obviously, the younger folks, Ricki Starr he had a legitimate ballet dancing training. And he also was a legitimate wrestler and combined these and had like a Caucasian rocka type of gimmick in the late 50s that he made a lot of money with, and then went to England for years and years, lived there. But nevertheless, on March 11th, 1957, Madison Square Garden, they drew 19,995 people and paid $62,565. Okay, that's the official attendance and gate. And the main event was Rocca over Hans Schmidt, who was the hot German heel at the time.
Oh, yeah, that's a big match.
And the semifinal was Ricki Starr over Dick the Bruiser. So, again, Ricki Starr was the next to last match, even though he was a pretty big name. But this is the period of time when Pfefer had a lot of fucking control. The Fargos were on this card. They had just put the Fargos together. There were talents that were working for Vince Sr. in Capital Wrestling in Washington. But as we've mentioned, the Garden promoters were able and had their own wrestling advisors, including Cola Quariani, who was the key to Rocca. And so they picked and chose talent. But Pfefer had a piece of Rocca, or had a piece of Ricki Starr, rather.
Yeah.
Which is why that his payoffs are recorded in Pfeffer's files. He got $2,500 for that semifinal match in the Garden on a $62,000 house.
What was the date of that show again?
March 11, 1957.
Okay. Wow.
$2,500 in 1957. It's like fucking 11, almost $12 to one today. So that would be the equivalent of around 30 grand in fucking today's purchasing power, as they say, for a fucking semifinal match in Madison Square Garden. But he was, and then we've also got documentation that a few years later, the Fargos were a main event or a semifinal match. It got like $1,000. Of course, they were in a tag, but this guy was being taken care of. And then he comes back. Hold on, got to turn the page. On March the 30th, 1957, they draw 20,125 people and $63,753. So about $1,000 more than another 130 people. And Rocca and Perez are on top against Fargo and Don Stevens, who would later become Don Fargo. That was the night they sold out the Garden, the big record house that they always bragged of, right? But the semifinal was Ricki Starr against Paul Bunyan, who I am pretty positive was that giant lurch-like character that used to also work as Max Palmer. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know the name, but I can't, and as I try to think about it, I can't put an image to it.
He was a big, lumbering, kind of normal-looking guy. They billed him, he was in some movies and TV. They billed him at 8'2", which was a big exaggeration because that would have put him, I think, at that point as the world's tallest man or second place or whatever. But he was like as big as El Gigante, tall. He just wasn't an athlete or anything, but they used him in wrestling in the late 50s. He made movies, I think, as Max Palmer. His wrestling gimmick in a lot of places was Paul Bunyan. It was a 3 minute and 55-second match. So one would have to think that it was a freak show type of thing that Pfefer would have loved. And I believe that's why he probably represented this guy, now that I'm talking this through. Ricki Starr got another $2,500. So he made, for 2 shows at Madison Square Garden in the month of March 1957, just working 2 nights, he made $5,000, which is the equivalent today of almost 70 grand.
What would Pfeffer's cut have been?
That is not recorded, but I assume since he had however many other fucking wrestlers and he's booking all these guys into the Garden, the Fargos were giving him, when he found them here and sent him to Tennessee, and then they were giving him an equal payoff as their manager, even though he was not there. Everywhere they were booked on the road through him, if they made $50, he made $50. Whatever they made each. Jackie 50, Don 50, Pfefer 50. And there's the letters in the Pfefer files that, again, I've got to go through and put some dates and places to the records they have and see what kind of gates these guys were doing and the various pay scales. But they were on a weekly basis writing in with what they got paid and sending him his cut. His bundles, they cut the bundles, as he called them. Apparently a payoff or any kind of wad of money was a bundle. But think about that. This fucking guy and Ricki Starr, he was working all over the Northeast at the time and in places like Baltimore and fucking Philadelphia. And he was big and he got big shots in Chicago. And, at one point worked in a variety of places across the country, making that kind of money as an attraction like that. It's insane.
And he's just one guy that Pfefer was booking out. Pfefer was a one-man booking office. You mentioned the Fargos, various other people. So it wasn't like that was the only money Pfefer had coming in. From what you've seen, and I don't want to spoil any future segments you're going to do on this, but the relationship between Pfefer and Jackie Fargo, was it as good with Pfefer and Don Fargo? Was it different? How would you compare the relationships from what you've seen?
Well, it didn't last as long as Jackie's. And that's Don, for whatever reason, and I think because it was a pattern of his career, he just wanted to leave and go places. I mean, I don't even know whether he had a reason a lot of times, but when he originally left the Fargos team, you see letters he reported in for a short period of time, but then he was on his own. Pfefer was not booking him. Pfefer still kept a relationship with Jackie where even in 62, 63, 64, when Jackie was mostly based out of Tennessee and was really getting over there, Pfefer would get him shots in Chicago. When remember we've talked about when Pfefer took over Chicago with Fred Kohler and ran it into the ground, and there's records there that show how bad the losses were.
63 and 64, yeah.
But Pfefer brought Jackie Fargo in as the world champion. That was his new buddy Rogers. And I mean, people have seen film of Fargo when he was in his 40s and the 70s, but he did look... he never had the physique of Buddy Rogers, but he could pass. He was very Pfefer-like, and he could pass close enough.
What's the oldest Jackie Fargo footage you have seen?
There is something from, I think, Nashville off of silent 8mm film of a 6-man tag, and I can't remember where I've seen it. And I think it's from around probably the mid-60s. And otherwise, it's the 1972 match with Al Green that sold out the Mid-South Coliseum for wrestling for the first time.
I love the way Al Green throws his punches at Jackie Fargo in the corner in that match.
Boy, howdy. I love the way that Fargo stands in front of him, even though he knows what's going to happen. But nevertheless, then Pfefer brought Jackie Fargo to Boston for Tony Santos during Tony Santos's final year or years promoting Boston, and pushed him as the world champion there. And he had still gotten Fargo to the Madison Square Garden cards as late as, I think it was either 61 or 62, one or the other, with Jackie and Roughhouse, Sonny. And see, that's the thing. You see that Jackie was making, $80 or $100 or $120, whatever it was in Memphis or Nashville. But when Pfefer would get him these outshots on these runs, he'd make several $100s in Chicago, or he'd make $1,000 in the Garden, or he'd make $500 or $600, $700 in Boston. And it wasn't until after 64, Pfefer lost his connections, and then they weren't coming. And then through 65, 66, Jackie's over in the Tennessee territory. They're giving him towns to run. He's partners in businesses with Eddie Bond, the country music guy that used to tour with Carl Perkins and Elvis and all these people. He's on the radio. And, he's tired of sending Pfefer his cut. And then finally, something happened, which hopefully we will find out more specifics about, but by 67, Jackie broke his relationship off with Pfefer, and there was no more money involved in that famous meeting they had in the locker room in Nashville with Goulas and Welch and Christine and Fargo and Pfefer. And then the black cats start popping up every time that you see a fucking anything from the Tennessee office.
Yeah, I mean, it must be a difficult conversation when you get to the point where he's no longer booking you out anywhere because you don't need to be booked out anywhere. You're working in the territory that you live. Are you supposed to pay Pfefer forever based on that?
Well, you've always got to pay the Pfefer, whether it be Peter Pfefer or Jack Pfefer. Anyhow,
Ricki Starr, though, he's one of those names,
yes.
like if you ever meet fans from like right before Gorilla Monsoon, even though we talked about Gorilla last week, so I'll say him, but even though there are fans who were still there, like the previous era, Rocca, Ricki Starr is a name that always comes up. I remember seeing Ricki Starr, whether it was the ballet slippers or, the mannerisms in the ring, whatever it was, he stood out to a lot of the fans that saw him.
And, again, then probably more of our British fans will remember him because he spent the last years and years of his career there. He came back to the States maybe once before he retired. And
Lanny Poffo based a lot of his stuff, especially later on as the Genius, on the mannerisms in the ring of Ricki Starr, right?
I think he did. I believe he did. I might have seen him do it. Anyhow, we got another thing here, a little history for the folks, because this learned me something, Brian, that I didn't really know before. I didn't know the details about this story. It's a famous story inside the wrestling business that's been told in the locker rooms for the past 65 years. But I didn't actually know the details, and I think people have forgotten some of them, but it's kind of apropos to bring this up because of the talk about Roger Jackson and Psycho Stu and all this malarkey going on with people not being smart, being allowed in the business, or people hitting the ring and aren't smart, or whatever the case. Things have always happened. Now, of course, we said that there was not usually the case where everybody involved was in some degree culpable, and there was a lot of stupidity and unprofessionalism going on to go all the way around at the show out in California here recently. But there were always incidents related to people who weren't smart that were still maybe connected in some fashion to the actual wrestling business or the people on the wrestling program going on. And the other day we talked about George Goulas' TV promo that he had done that ended up on YouTube. And I mentioned I'd seen it as part of the Savoldi's library that they had. And somebody emailed me a newspaper article from the Oklahoma City Times, Saturday, May 28th, 1960, on Angelo Savoldi, who was one of the Savoldi family at the time, was a top guy in the Leroy McGurk territory. And it's the full story of, again, a story that's been famous in the locker rooms in wrestling for a long time. And I just knew the bare bones of it, that Angelo Savoldi was the heel, and Danny Hodge as a rookie, the great Danny Hodge from Perry, Oklahoma, that would go on to be the world junior heavyweight champion and is still remembered, the Hodge Trophy in wrestling, an NCAA champion, the greatest American wrestler probably pound for pound ever produced. But his father one night, Danny Hodge's father, at a wrestling match, stabbed Angelo Savoldi, his opponent, because he wasn't smart. That was the bare bones of the story that we've been told all those years. You've heard it, right, Brian?
I heard that he went after him, and as he had the knife in the air, he said, "I hate Parsippany," and he went for him.
But no, basically, there's more details now, and I want to read this newspaper article, and it might take me a second because it printed out in 2 fucking pages, and I got to hold them up both together. But it's the Oklahoma City Times, May 28, 1960. Angelo Savoldi, with more than 70 stitches in his back and arm, declined Saturday to file state charges against his boxing opponent's father for slashing him with a knife in a Friday night match. William Edward Hodge, 50, of Perry, Oklahoma, thus was released from city jail on $20 bond from a police court complaint resulting from the municipal auditorium melee. Savoldi, an old pro, began talking Saturday about a rematch, which would keep a well-publicized rivalry alive. Savoldi said from his hospital bed he's more interested in meeting Hodge's son, Danny, again in the ring than in pressing any charges. Young Hodge and Savoldi are both professional wrestlers, but they were meeting in the boxing ring Friday night. So apparently, and again, before we go any further with this, Hodge also, and everybody in Oklahoma knew it, after his amateur wrestling success, before he became a pro wrestler, this, I don't know what you call them, investment group, management groups, people got together and said, we want to, because he had competed in the Golden Gloves also as a boxer. And he was actually, wasn't he the only guy to fucking win the Golden Gloves and an amateur wrestling title ever in the same year as well? But nevertheless, so this group got him to become a professional boxer. And he had about 7 or 8 fights, and he didn't like it, and he quit, and then he turned to pro wrestling. So this angle with Savoldi, they had wrestled a couple of times, and apparently they had done some kind of deal to, okay, now the stipulations this week, it's a boxing match. Let's see how you fight Hodge in a boxing match, huh? That type of thing. But that's a detail I never knew about, but it plays into the story because listen to this. In the 5th round of the match, Hodge's father suddenly charged down the aisle, stepped into the ring, and slashed twice at Savoldi's back with a pocket knife. The father was interviewed in jail Saturday prior to his release. In a boxing match, you're supposed to follow the rules, Hodge declared. I wouldn't have said a thing if this had happened in a wrestling match. My boy was down and Savoldi had hold of both ropes and was stomping on him. I didn't say anything last week when he did the same thing in the wrestling ring. But when you put on boxing gloves, there are certain rules you're supposed to follow. We've talked about this, Brian, that a lot of guys in the old days didn't smarten their family up because they just...
Or give them good tickets. He had to run down the aisle.
Well, yeah. But they didn't smarten the family members all the way up. And later on, there's more of this, but Hodge's father said, like, wrestling, that kind of tomfoolery is allowed. Apparently, Hodge had, because here's the thing, it's Danny Hodge's father, even if he is somewhat a small town fellow. He knows that his son is the baddest wrestler and boxer in the goddamn country. So Hodge, to avoid having to smarten him up, said, well, they let us do the showbiz and everything in wrestling, but it's still rough. But the outcomes are legitimate, whatever the fuck, whatever cover story he'd given his dad somehow figured, well, now they're fighting on boxing rules now, so it ought to be different. And then, hold on, the doctor said the 2 knife wounds were not critical. We had to do quite a bit of repair work, a nurse said, but he isn't hurt critically. He feels pretty good this morning. Hodge and Savoldi had met in 2 professional matches at Stockyard Coliseum, but both matches ended in confusion. Promoters arranged the boxing match as a result. The elder Hodge, employee of a Perry implement firm, said he's seen all his son's professional bouts, both boxing and wrestling. In professional wrestling, that horseplay is all in the game, but I feel like boxing's different. So he cut the guy with a knife at his arm and his back.
So what did you heard about this before getting this information?
Well, I didn't know it was in a boxing match, and I didn't know, the whole buildup and that again that his father had somehow, because see, again, it wasn't surprising. All the guys said when they repeated the story was, yeah, Hodge never smartened his father up. But it's fascinating to know that he gave him some kind of fucking story where so he wouldn't hit the ring on his wrestling matches. Hey, we're allowed to do that stuff, or it's okay there, it's showbiz. But somehow the dad thought, okay, boxing rules. Well, now he's got to treat my boy fair. He didn't tell him the whole goddamn deal was a work. And dad didn't pick up on it because it was a different time.
It's a great story, though. Does that help? Does that help or hurt the wrestling company for that to get in the newspaper?
Oh, God, it helped. Because people talked about that in Oklahoma for the next 20 years. Because Hodge was a legend to begin with. And now it's even bad. Also, for people who would say wrestling's fake, well, what the fuck? The guy was stomping his son, so he got in the ring and fucking cut him and put him in a hospital over a work? Actually, there have been fake stabbings and slashings. December of 1977, when Lawler had the rematch in the Mid-South Coliseum with Harley Race for the NWA title. And to keep his deal with Jimmy Valiant going, Valiant ran in, broke the bottle over his head, and slashed him on the chest with it. And Lawler bladed his chest and went to the hospital afterwards to get him to stitch it up, so it made the newspaper. But this was the element of premeditation was not there in the Savoldi Hodge conflict here. It was just, serendipitous. It got front page coverage.
I mean, there were stories about, I think, Mario Galento's wife, Smokey, like pulling guns on people, right?
Yeah, she had a gun in her purse sitting on the front row. And his opponents would, make sure to ask if she wasn't going to get too mad or whatever the case. And finally, that was early on, they were together for a while. I think finally she got smartened up, but then if anybody fucked with Mario or he believed they were fucking with him, then she still might pull a gun on him. But they had their daughter working before it was over with, Barbara Galento. But now here's the question, Brian. Two people who aren't smart, probably in many ways, but definitely to the wrestling business, two completely different setups, two completely different time periods, whatever. But when you think about it, which one would you have rather had? Would you rather had the guy, well, he took his pocket knife, he cut me on the back, he cut me on the arm, I got 35 stitches, it ain't serious. Or would you rather have a guy take for 23 free shots at your face, break your fucking facial bones, knock your teeth out, give you brain damage, put you into some type of short-term coma? And yeah. Because I know a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, see, it can be worse. He actually used a knife on him. He cut him. Fuck. If it's the devil or the deep blue sea, if it's one or the other, I think I'll take Hodge's dad, won't you?
All things being equal, knowing that Angelo Savoldi had a nice long life, yeah, I would take that. It's amazing Roger Jackson's still out there. There's been nothing, no repercussions for any of this yet. Hopefully we'll have an update next time. I know his dad's been doing interviews and giving comments on both sides of the issue, apparently.
His dad has a different story every show he does, and he does 5 shows a day. But one of the things he said, well, he ought to do some time in jail. Not prison, but just jail and some community service.
And I think now they're also blaming Psycho Stu for having the audacity.
Well, he was obviously a menace to society, as drunk and out of control as he was there. He looked like he was in a soma coma.
Well, hopefully an update soon. Hopefully.
Yes. Hopefully some type of repercussions that we can report on the other fellow. But until then, Brian, maybe you think you're in a business where people are going to jump in the ring and slash you with a knife or shoot spine buster you and bash your face in, or just all around just treat you just bad. Maybe you want to change your business. Maybe you would like to go into the job you have right now and you'd like to tell all your coworkers to piss up a rope, and you'd like to say thank you, fuck you, bye to the boss, and you'd like to go home and be your own boss, the master of your own domain, as they say. You can't just do that by yourself, can you, Brian? You got to have help. You got to have somebody in your corner. You got to have a professional entity that can lead you and guide you in all these ways so you can take your creativity and your good ideas and your various forms of this ought to work and turn them into reality where you can tell people where to go and what to do and how to park your car without taking instructions anymore in your life. Brian, is that not the life that the American dream aspires to?
I believe so, yes. Oh, what was that?
That was that kid on the bicycle. He's always ahead of the game. Wherever they're making money, he's riding right by. And folks, Shopify is, of course, who I'm talking about and who we're cha-chinging about. Shopify and our friends over there, and they are all wonderful, decent people. Many of them have passed background checks, and some of them will be off parole soon. They're the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world and 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States of America today. Because Shopify, they'll take you from the beginning and they'll walk you through it. Your own design studio they've got set up and ready and waiting for you. Make you build a beautiful online store. Accelerate your content creation. Product descriptions, page headlines. Enhance your photography. Mine's been enhanced. Yours can be too. Imagine how big it can become when we're all enhanced. And use their marketing team. They're going to get the word out. They're going to be whispering behind your back. They're going to be talking in people's ears. They're going to have a whole team behind you. And social media campaigns where they will literally blister people with all manner of notifications about how to send you money. And their expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping and beyond. Beyond. There you go. So, folks, if you're ready to sell something, whether it be tamales, antiques, or potentially your own body, I don't know what you look like, but if you want to pursue the option, get a hold of me first. Send me a picture. I'll try to give you an update on at least an opinion, maybe a learned suggestion or two. But turn your big business idea into turn your big, there you go. I didn't ask for two of them. Turn your big business idea into that thing with Shopify on your side right now and sign up for your $1 a month trial period and start selling today. Sell like you're going to the electric chair. Sell like they're waltzing you across Texas. Sell like a pig under a gate. Shopify.com/JCE. That's the code. That's the secret code to get you the $1 a month trial period. Shopify.com/JCE, where they'll build your empire, sell your things, and send you a whole lot of the money for it. All you got to do is sit back with Pete in hand and watch the cash roll in. Now you're so free with them.
Now you're very free with it. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know, we're just rambling and babbling, but of course, Shopify is there for you.
I was doing good. I don't know about you, what you're doing over here.
I'm under the weather, but Shopify is always there for you, no matter what the weather is. They power us, and they can power you. That's what I was trying to say. Our friends.
You know, the elephant man talked in a more literate manner than you right now.
I've always admired John Merrick. But once again, Shopify, Jim.
Yes, /JCE. All righty then. Let us move forward now with more part of the entertainment of the programming here. I got an email, Brian, from my old friend Ken from up in what part of Pennsylvania? He's up there. He's up around the Pennsylvania area.
Upper Pennsylvania?
up around the Pennsylvania. Could be lower, could be eastern, could be western. And after all, what is Pennsylvania but Philadelphia on one end, Pittsburgh on the other end, and West Virginia in the middle? But he said, and brings up something that's interesting in the way that more modern fans think about something as compared to the fans or modern guys compared to the fans and the guys of the old days. He says, I was watching an SD Jones match on YouTube. Right there was his first mistake. And of course, there was the spot where the heel slams SD's head into the turnbuckle, which he doesn't sell. Jesse Ventura comments, well, that won't work on SD. I started thinking about how, I guess, for lack of a better word, racist it was in wrestling before the modern era, as many black and Samoan wrestlers could not be hurt when their cranium was under attack. So many used the headbutt as a finisher. SD Jones, Skip Young, Bobo Brazil, Tony Atlas, Afa and Sika, Samoan SWAT team, etc. What was the background on this? And were the black and Samoan wrestlers pissed about the stereotype? Well, for the background of the idea of a headbutt in pro wrestling, now that we know the modern fighting styles, people actually headbutt in fights, depending on the context of what kind of fight you're having, pro or amateur, whatever. Headbutts are a thing. But yes, it is an old racist stereotype that black people have hard heads. I don't know how far that goes back, but that was a stereotype. And obviously, in wrestling, one would think that was the reason why that so many black guys, Bobo Brazil wasn't the first, but he probably, because he was the nationally known black baby face that everybody knew and loved and used the headbutt as a finish, that he would have popularized it. But it goes back to, I'm sure, the 30s and probably farther than that. So, yes, there is a racist underpinning or, the racist origin to black guys using the headbutts or not selling the head into the turnbuckle or whatever. But as far as whether they would be pissed about it, this is the thing, Brian. And, either the fans or the guys will be like, oh, bullshit. Bobo Brazil didn't give a shit. Bobo Brazil, if you had gone to Bobo Brazil and said, Bobo, I know your finish is over. Instead of the cocoa nut, it was the cocoa butt. I know your finish is over, but it's racist and we want you to change it. Do something else. He would have said, wait a minute. I got the easiest finish in the wrestling business. I can do it to anybody. There's literally almost zero chance of injury unless I really headbutt the guy. I don't have to pick anybody up. I don't have to fall down. Are you out of your fucking mind? That's a thing. It was business. I mean, seriously,
I can't even imagine. Hey, Bobo, one thing. Drop the cocoa butt.
Yeah.
What? What do you mean?
And I mean to say, it for a lot of those guys that used it, it worked for them and it was easy. And it was easy on the opponent. And it was a business. You weren't trying to do the prettiest, most dangerous, most athletically thrilling thing ever seen. You were trying to get one move that you could do to anybody over that people would pop on when you did it. Now, as for the Samoans, I don't think it's a stereotype that they have. I've never met a Samoan or a native of the Pacific Islands that the first thing I would think of to do if I was forced to fight one of them would have been hit him in the head. I don't know that that's a stereotype. I don't know in the Samoan culture if that's considered offensive or whatever, but I wouldn't try it. And so, I mean, that's probably something that they just said, well, fuck, if I was mad at a guy, I'd just hit him in the goddamn head with my head. But I'm willing to be corrected on that if that's also offensive in the Samoan culture.
We have an email here, Jim, from Samoa, from Softhead Sam. He says, we're not all the same.
There was that problem when they weren't getting enough calcium in the coconut milk back in the 50s, and an entire generation was born with soft heads. We do apologize for the error.
I mean, guys still use the headbutt. It's not like it's gone away, right? I mean, Jacob Fatu headbutts people, doesn't he?
Well, yeah, and he's Samoan. All the Samoans headbutt people. Now, I don't recall, now that it's been brought up, because it wasn't something that was just weighing heavily on my mind. I don't know a bunch of the black wrestlers of today are using the headbutt. I know a bunch of the white ones that you wouldn't look at and say, well, I think he has a preternaturally hard head. They're using it because it's cool. It's like, Dick the Boozer will headbutt you. It looked like shit, but
it is interesting, though. It is something that a lot of black wrestlers used for a long time, and then it just went away. And, as you were talking about this, I'm thinking of the current wrestlers, and I can't think of anyone using the headbutt. At some point, it went from everyone was doing it to no one does it.
But see, that with Jacob Fatu and Solo's same way, I think they do too many, because they'll just, when a guy's down in front of them, they'll just like headbutt him 5 times real quick, and the guy's selling already, but the perpetrator is not really registering anything. And that just, to me, that's a lazy transition. With Jacob, if he grabbed a guy like the guys that used to use it for a fucking finish in the left hand with the back of the guy's head and drew back and bam, and one headbutt, and the guy takes a big bump, and Jacob makes a little funny face and he goes about his business, that would have so much more impact. But they just use it as kind of a transition thing now.
Well, let me say something that you may not agree with. With the rare exception, and the one I could think of is the Dynamite Kid, who at times I saw really lay it in, or at least it looked like it. But I hate the diving headbutt. I just don't think it looks good, and I think it's something that needs to be explained to someone who doesn't always watch wrestling, and maybe it makes sense to that fan, but it just looks like a slow-moving head to the shoulder. At times it doesn't even look like it comes near the head, and I just never thought that was the one thing. I really like Harley Race, but that was the one thing I always thought looked like shit.
Yeah, well, Harley was trying to go forehead to forehead, but do it safely, and there was still, you couldn't do it at full speed.
Right.
A guy like Benoit, or somebody that came off the top with that kind of velocity, and he was doing some kind of damage to something, I could buy that.
Yeah, he really was.
But, yeah. But a lot of the guys that just, like you said, just do it and land in the general vicinity, or, whatever. It's an example of 1 or 2 or 3 guys get something over. It looks good when they do it, or it looks appealing to the modern generation. Then everybody tries to do it and people see through it. That's it's the same thing with the headbutt. Ronnie Garvin was excellent with the standing, I used to call them the flipper headbutts, where he would just free, without holding your head, just freestand, and he'd jump up and headbutt you. And he had a good eye for it. And it looked pretty fucking good, but he looked like Flipper up in the air. I'd be at ringside. They call him Flipper.
If you ever talk to WWF fans from like 82 or 83 who got to go to live shows, or specifically smaller shows, the most disappointing thing in the world was when the snooker match would end with like a headbutt from the second rope. As opposed to the Superfly splash. The guy would be down, you'd be like, oh, he's going to do the splash. And instead he would go like halfway and just do the headbutt.
Well, that was his spot show finish. Because that's, again, even if it's a guy's trademark move, then you can't do the Superfly splash 320 times a year off the top rope over a period of 5 or 10 years straight. And that's another reason why Bobo Brazil wouldn't have wanted you to take away his headbutt. Because you could do that. But a lot of those guys realize that there's no way I can do this. I'll do the splash in the garden, do the splash, the big show. I can't fucking do that 320 times a year or I'll cripple myself. Which the Dynamite Kid did it 320 times a year and crippled himself.
If you were booking a wrestler who had a really crazy looking forehead, would you tell him to do the headbutt? Like, let's use your disformity.
Yes, well, no, that was like King Curtis. That fucking, remember that head? He used the head, but Duke Myers had a goddamn head the size of a fucking deformed watermelon. And he did the headbutt, boom, and it was believable. It depends on the size of your head. I don't know if Danny Garcia needs to be doing a fucking headbutt. He looks like he'd pop like a pimple. Anyway, depends on whether you got a soft head or a hard head. Brian, since we're talking about people with soft heads, do you want to bring up that Matt Riddle is not making himself any friends these days?
Yeah, I was wondering if you saw this story because it was like over a few days where there was controversy and then there was a statement. And then I guess, in a sense, fallout from the statement.
A tirade. I love the tirade.
The last thing we had heard was that he ran into Shane McMahon at Hulk Hogan's funeral, and Shane made a sarcastic comment about his now red hair, to which Matt Riddle replied, "Go fuck yourself." And that was the last thing we had heard.
By the way, the new statements are accompanied by video of him with this red hair, and it's the most ridiculous looking thing you've ever seen. What the fuck is he even doing? I don't even think all of it's red. I don't know what the fuck it is.
I think
go ahead.
I was going to say, in terms of wrestling, I think he's like working for MLW or something. I don't even know what he's doing.
Well, he was working he was working the other day for Boca Raton Championship Wrestling, I think. Yes, Boca Raton Championship Wrestling he worked for the other day. But they're over in Boca Raton.
Otherwise known as Southern New York Championship Wrestling, but go ahead.
But I'm waiting for him to open up Del Boca Vista. I think that's a fucking market that's ready to pop.
Have you ever seen the bloopers where Jerry Stiller can't say it?
He can't say it. Del Vista Boca. Del Vista Boca. That's why even in the episode, he goes, Del Boca Vista. Like that.
He like spits it out because he's trying to really concentrate on each word.
But speaking of Del Boca Dicko, so apparently the story came out that Matt Riddle was booked for a show over in England, jolly old England, and he didn't show up. And he didn't send the money back. This is the first story came out. Didn't send the money back for the deposit, didn't show up or refused to come. And then to compound everything, it was a charity show to raise money for all the little charities of the world, whatever it was. And so then he responds, and here's the thing about Riddle. He might even have a point or two here in the middle of all this, but he's such an uncircumcised, flaming asshole prick about everything he says and does, and he's such just an obvious mental case and just a dick in general that there's no way to have any sympathy for him. But apparently his rebuttal statement was that the promoter wanted him to arrive in England for a Sunday show on Thursday. And he said he wasn't going to do it, but then the guy said he would make some kind of appearances or something else to make up for the days instead of sitting there for 2 days. But he didn't do it, so Riddle didn't make the trip, and he went to work for Del Boca Vista Wrestling on the one night and then something else the next night, and he said he would fly Saturday night over there for the Sunday show. But the promoter over there said, well, then you pay for it. He said, I'm not going to pay for it. But then he said, I'm not going to pay for it. Take it out of my pay or something. Well, that means you're paying for it, you fucking mental midget. But it's one of those deals where the guy didn't want to come over and sit there doing nothing for a couple days. And the promoter didn't come up with anything else for him to fucking do, but he's trying to get him a cheap ticket or whatever the fuck. I don't know. But the point being, that was the thing. And then Riddle was saying, well, you didn't announce it was a charity show until a couple of days ago, but then they had some type of proof that they'd announced that a month before. And then Riddle ended up giving back the deposit that he'd been sent. But he's an idiot. he's just an idiot, and he can't keep from saying stupid things that make people mad at him.
Well, Jim, we do have the actual audio of not the first statement that you referenced, just his response, I guess, to everyone being upset. The video title I have here is Matt Riddle drops unhinged video responding to being exposed for having no show to charity and being accused of not returning the deposit he was paid.
Wait a minute, what a fucking title. First of all, that pretty much encapsulates the statement. But yes, there was the back and forth with, he explained what had happened from his side of the fence with the promoter and everything, and the dates and the back and forth. And also he said he booked him a bad flight, like a middle seat, fuck you, whatever. But then I assume the video that you're talking about is the tirade that he went on to pretty much everybody in the fucking wrestling business, whether it be promoters, fans, or just anybody that he might come in contact with in the process of wrestling for Del Boca Vista Wrestling. Is he just gone fucking nuts and he don't give a shit?
Well, let's go to this audio. He appears to be in a red bathrobe. Sitting back, he has red hair. He's in front of a spray-painted wall. Let's go to Matt Riddle.
Is this his Charlie Sheen period?
It may be.
I could explain everything in great detail. I'm not lying. But I really don't give a fuck anymore. Most of you motherfuckers are dumb fucking just like when you believe that Me Too bullshit, all the other fucking garbage. You guys are all fucking dumb. And it's fucking insane. It's fucking insane. Fucking believe these fucking creeps? Whatever, dog. At the end of the day, I'm going to keep getting booked. I'm probably going to start fighting again. I'm probably going to do a lot of other shit. Fucking crushing on OnlyFans because I've got a big fucking you-know-what. And I'm nice as fuck, dude. Everybody, if you don't like me, unfollow. Go fuck yourselves, all right? I don't give a fuck because at the end of the day, the cream fucking rises to the top. And I'm really tired of trying to be nice to everybody because I hate to break it to you, most of you guys are fucking morons. Peace.
Well, there it is. The words from someone.
Well, at least he wishes peace on everybody.
Clearly not a moron, Matt Riddle.
Clearly a stable individual that you would want to book for meet and greets, personal appearances, public promotions, things like that, where he can interact with the general populace.
Yeah, WWE got to the point where they were afraid what he was going to do at the airport. Remember he got drunk and he got on the microphone at the airport? And it was a whole incident?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right. I guess, the fan fests are doing well for him, where he gets to meet and greet the public. Oh, apparently people are canceling him off of those because he's insulted everybody that's potentially a customer. Is this what I'm hearing?
Yeah, there was, I just saw this morning, Matt Riddle.
SuperCon, SIOUX. He's been banned in Sioux City.
That's right. I have an article here from SE Scoops. Former WWE star Matt Riddle has been removed from SuperCon in South Dakota following inflammatory remarks he made about sexual assault allegations during a recent online appearance. He dismissed what he called Me Too bullshit, referencing 2020 allegations made against him by Candy Cartwright. I forgot about that. That's right. He was accused of something with someone in Florida that he was with for a while. She was in the business, I think.
Well, no, but that was a different one. This was in the back seat of the car with the girl, and the other people were there, but they couldn't say what happened, blah, blah, blah. There was a variety of things. I think they just blamed the inflammatory statements about sexual assault so that they didn't have to come out and say, we don't think this guy is mentally all there, and we don't want him at our show talking to fucking people.
Yeah, and by the way, I think he survived that. He wasn't fired until, was it 2022?
Yeah.
That didn't even, he stayed after that, but I guess it's kind of telling. I said before, I think he's working for MLW. If that's not true, I don't know where he's working, but he ain't working for AEW. Like, you would think someone with that level of exposure on WWE TV, if they were workable, you would figure that Tony would be all over that. And instead, he's crushing it on OnlyFans.
Because he's got a big you-know-what. Apparently to make up for the lack of brain size. I was going to say, so, you get an overabundance of one thing, you get shortchanged over there on the other side.
It's something. WWE got rid of him. He was on top still. I mean, as on top as he was going to be, but he was in the main event mix. Remember, it was stuff with him in the Bloodline, and then he was gone. And it says something that they found him unemployable, that Tony has stayed away from him. I think maybe he's done something with New Japan. I'm not even sure. But he just disappeared as soon as WWE...
wait a minute. So there was somewhere he had some falling out with Japan. That's why he's not going back to Japan, isn't it? I don't know. Sure. I hate to spread theories.
You know what? I mean, I think we're booking Dark Side of the Ring. We have Alberto Del Rio, and now we could do Matt Riddle. They got to get into the current stuff. I think that's where the money is. You got the people out there right now to do it with.
But he hasn't finished being a dick yet. He hasn't finished fucking himself up. And
that's better for them. Then they could have a part 2. Then they could literally just tell the story, flesh it out, not rush through things, knowing there will definitely be more.
Well, but now you can't ever tell about these things. What if he just flings himself into the ocean the next day after the first show airs? Then you got no follow-up.
Do you think he's unemployable for a wrestling company?
No, I mean, Boca Raton Wrestling, I think he's got a chance to do return after return there with all their top talent. But no, it's not just that he's saying stupid things to the fans or stupid things to an indie promoter. He says stupid things to the top talent in the companies that he works with. Remember when Brock Lesnar told him, "You and I will never work together, dick." Because he was trying to shoot his own angle. He's not smart to the business, Matt Riddle, nor is he smart, apparently, to life. And it's not a gimmick. There's plenty of people that can be stoned all the time and still not sound like a blathering dipshit. So it's a gimmick with him, publicly, but it's just to cover up the fact that I just caught that high. No pun intended.
You caught the high.
I caught the high. The point is, he's just working that to cover up the fact that he's a fucking moron. He's not really very fucking bright, and he doesn't know what to say. And he's dumbed himself out of every position he's had. And I'm not saying he's unemployable, because whatever he's doing on OnlyFans, hopefully there's someone in there with him. I don't know exactly what the fucking product looks like, but he's not going to make any money in the wrestling business anywhere in the near or distant future. I didn't think he was that good to begin with, but people liked him because he acted weird, and doves flew out of his ass on WWF television.
And now he's on social media. Apparently now he's insulting CM Punk and AJ Lee. So now he's on his tour of cancellation, I guess. I don't know what this is, but now he's insulting.
And he keeps cutting promos on people he's never going to get a chance to work with. And if he did get a chance to work with them, they won't work with him. He's a fucking idiot. And he's fixated, I could beat so-and-so in a real... I don't even know if he can beat anybody in a real fight anymore. Can he find his way home? Is this early onset CTE? If he worked for the post office, they would tell him to take a week or 2 off instead of coming into work after saying shit like that.
Well, we'll see what happens. We'll see. We're not going to see him wrestle anywhere. We'll see what else he says that goes around on the internet.
I don't know. I'm going to go to Boca Raton next year. I might drop in on him. But you know what he's doing, Brian? What he's doing is he's giving people that appreciate the benefits of good quality CBD products, he's giving them a bad name. With all of the various falderall and shenanigans that he's pulling, because now there's professional ways to get your CBD gummies instead of going out behind the dumpster in Boca Raton and dealing with some unsavory individual. Do you know what our friends at Cornbread Hemp are doing here now in Louisville, Brian? Have you heard about this?
I have not. You may hear about the neighbors' gardeners. They're making a lot of noise right now, but I have not heard about Cornbread Hemp's exciting activities.
I would have never known about them grass cutters over there, but I would tell you that Cornbread Hemp, they're making waves here in the city of Louisville, Kentucky, based right here in our fair Derby city, and they are now sponsoring officially U of L athletics, the U of L basketball team, the football team. This is not some fly-by-night shyster Johnny-come-lately operation going on here. Cornbread Hemp, well, they're taking over the world. They're making buku amounts of money and buku amounts of CBD gummies that you can buy and have for your very own, whether you are stressed, whether you're lonely, whether your plans don't include me.
On. That is not your key.
Well, even if everybody's plans don't include you and you're just sitting home alone, you can take the CBD gummies for your physical and mental wellness and well-being, and you can not be stressed about it. And you can get a good night's sleep. If you've tried everything under the sun for peace of mind and a good night's sleep, that's where you went wrong. You should have waited till the sun went down and sleep in the dark, you idiot. But it's time for you to try Cornbread Hemp's CBD gummies. Whether you're at stress or discomfort or just needing a little relaxation, helping you feel better physically if you've had the exercise. And as we get older, folks, sometimes the body doesn't recoil from using that pole saw and that limb lopper like it used to. These are formulated to help relieve discomfort, stress, and sleeplessness, and they are third-party lab tested and USDA organic. Wait a minute. Oh, USDA, not USWA. I thought Randy Hales had tested them out.
Corey Macklin.
Randy Hales can ensure the safety and purity of these fine CBD
No, they
gummies.
do not have any association with Randy Hales. Let's not put that on them, but let's put on the listeners to a great deal.
Well, I'm not putting anybody on. I'm telling you the truth. Cornbread Hemp uses only the best part of the hemp plant, the flower. A purty flower for the purest and most potent CBD, no fillers, no junk, just goodness, and it'll go right into your bloodstream. And instantly you will feel the CBD molecules start working until suddenly you begin popping out of your clothing and your skin starts turning green and your hair starts growing on your knuckles. And then you'll realize that you have the strength of 10 men. Or you might just lay down and have a good night's sleep.
Let's focus on that. Let's focus on
one of those experiences will happen to you, folks. If right now, what you need to do, you want to save 30%, Brian. Would you like to pay only 70% of what these fine products are worth?
That would be a great deal, and I'm all about a great deal.
Well, then you just go now to cornbreadhemp.com. That's corn, the way corn is spelled, bread, the way bread is spelled, and cornbread is the way that it's spelled when you put corn and bread together into cornbread. Cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout, and you are going to get 30% off your first order. That means you are only paying 70% of what this fine product is worth to get all these benefits, to feel better, to sleep better, to let your mind breathe free and easy. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. You're jacking these people around. You are ripping them off for 30%, and they're letting you. I'm going to call them and have them put a stop to this. They're right in my hometown. I'll tell them they need to up their prices. So take advantage of this before I make that call. While you can, save 30% on your first order, cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. USWA organic. And that means it came from a pouch of Red Man in Eddie Marlin's back pocket.
USDA organic, and of course, Cornbread Hemp, very popular here in this household. We hope they send more samples soon. Very popular at Castle Cornette, and they'll be very popular for you. And if you have a lady friend, she may like it as well.
Or a male friend, if you have any friends.
Well, speaking from personal experience.
Other persons or women too.
One more time, Jim, that promo code.
30% off cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at checkout. And If you order enough, they will send a University of Louisville football player over to your house to pass the ball around with you.
We're at the end. No reason to fabricate.
No, well, I'm not No, they've got different people fabricating. They got a whole department for fabrication.
You hear that? The jingle is playing. Cornbread Hemp. What's that promo code?
JCE.
All right, this is your show.
That was as sour as a fucking rotten lemon.
All right, it's your show.
Well, I guess now that we've relaxed and eliminated our stress, had a good night's sleep, we need to talk about the thing we need to talk about. AEW wrestling for Wednesday night, September 3rd, AEW Dynamite. The story this week is the ratings, and we're going to tell you what they are. But first, we got to tell you what contributed to them being that way. And Brian, okay, let me give you two scenarios. Think about this. If you're a farmer living out in the middle of nowhere on a country road, and you're sitting on your porch and you front poach, and you got your old hound dog by your side, and you're watching the birds fly around in the front yard, and all of a sudden you see a car coming down the road from the west coming from Pixley, and a car down from the east coming from Bug Tussle. And as they get right in front of your house, they just run right the fuck into each other. Boom! Right head on, and holy shit, and the airbags pop, and shit catches on fire, and here comes some police, and here comes a fire engine, here comes an ambulance. They carry people off to the hospital. There's scorched marks on the road in front of your house. You're going to remember that for a long time, aren't you? You're going to tell that story 20 years from now. You're going to be telling that story to your little grandbabies, and the people that know you are going to be sick of that fucking story. You're going to remember every detail, right?
More than likely, it's an extraordinary occurrence.
Exactly. Now let's say that you live in an apartment in the middle of the city at the intersection of two major roadways that have people constantly making illegal left turns. And about once or twice a week, there's somebody smashing into each other in the front of your house where you're looking out the window. And there's fire engines, and there's police cars.
Yeah.
Huh?
Queens Boulevard. I've heard of this.
Queens Boulevard. There you go. And King's Crossing. And all of those royal places there. Well, you know, there's royalty in America, too. And the police cars and the fire engine, they're there every day. You're always hearing sirens. So next week, you might not remember the details of everything that happened because you see it all the time. This is where we're at with AEW television, and this is what we've been talking about for years and years, in that sooner or later, the chickens, as they say, come home to roost when the only change in the shows and the way the shows are presented is that they do more shit now. Because they have to do more, because they've done so much that they have to do more to make it outstanding, to make it memorable, to make it, but they've already lost the cause and they've already shit the bed, because what can you do? In the past 2 weeks, they have hospitalized and put out of action Kenny Omega because he needs to be out of action, as procedures planned and things to do. And Swerve Strickland, because he's got to get worked on. And Will Ospreay, because he's got to get worked on. But even when people know they're already hurt, they still have to fucking hospitalize them. So now there is such chaos and carnage, people being run over, jumped off of shit. You're just watching an endless parade of a variation on the same theme, and it gets more and more, and it impacts you less and less because you've seen so much of it, until finally you're not even turning around when the cars run into each other. And this is the problem with why they have been, they haven't bled viewers, they have trickled viewers. But over a period of 5 years, when you look back at the first goddamn year, they were doing 800, 900,000, sometimes 1 million people. But then it's gradually descended over a period of time because people wear out. You get sick of it. You get tired of it. What more can they do? What more can I see? I can't keep track of this shit. It doesn't make any sense. All of my favorite wrestlers are either gone or always hurt. Or they botched the guy that they brought in that I wanted to like. And you can't blame Max, because Max didn't even, however many people are watching on Max, they had already lost 300,000 or more off of their weekly average before the Max thing started. What are those people doing? Watching fucking slides on a barn wall? And it's gotten worse over the last several weeks. When concurrently with apparently when Tony said he's decided to take over everything again and follow his instincts, and his instincts are to put as many people as he can into every goddamn thing, and there's no restraint, where there's multiple acts of mayhem happening on every show. And then what else you gonna fucking do? And who gives a shit?
You know, I had a...
They would, I'll say this, hold that thought. They'd get more attention on this television program if they arrested Chuck E. Cheese than if they hospitalized Kenny Omega. Go ahead, I'm sorry.
Especially at the end of the show, a show that traditionally just hemorrhages viewers at the end of the show, yet they keep doing things at the end of the show. There's long-term damage. And unfortunately, there are people who are blind to any reality about AEW that isn't positive. The main one being Tony Khan. But it's also the people that Tony talks to, that he texts with, that aren't honest with him that he's not good at this. And if he was, it wouldn't be now 6 years in. They tried to make a big deal just recently. Everything's up. Everything, we're having a great year. Pay-per-view is up. Ratings are up year over year, which hasn't made sense to anyone. We do them every week on the show. We follow them. We can't even figure out what's up versus last year. But at the same time, there's been this feeling watching Dynamite like it's dying. And it's because there's no star power. And even if Ospreay and Swerve were healthy, no disrespect to them, because I think they're both stars. I think Swerve's matches are ridiculous, and I'm not really a fan of them. But they're both stars, but they're not major stars. So even if they were there, it wouldn't make a difference. There's no major stars. There's no stars. And they have so many goofs that don't look like they belong on this show. And if you tuned in 2 years ago and saw Wheeler Yuta, Daniel Garcia, they're still there. They're still there. It's the same B-level, C-level players they keep throwing out there. They have Don Callis with like every fucking heel on the show. Heels that matter, heels that don't. Heels that you don't see.
And then the heels that don't matter in the group make the heels that matter seem less matterful.
The commentators. We weren't a few minutes into this. I don't even remember the exact words, but it was something from Tony Schiavone along the lines of, "This is why AEW is great." Who's he saying this for? We're in the middle of the match, and then serious shit happens, and the three of them, and I'm sorry to incriminate Taz, but yeah, him too, start chuckling and laughing at like murder. Like all this shit that's happening around them, the serious stuff, the stuff that should be like, oh my God, someone's gonna die, that's what makes them laugh. I'm clapping my hands, I'm sorry, I'm getting fired up.
Yes.
You know, I mean, also we have to say you may be part of the blame. I mean, now that we know that they've switched Nielsen homes just recently, maybe it's one less wrestling fan or two less wrestling fans this go around than it was last time. But there's how many just random 8-man tag matches are there? Or 4-way matches with guys who aren't over. And they still want to pretend like the Young Bucks are stars. The Young Bucks don't mean a fucking thing to this show. And they wouldn't mean a goddamn thing to any other show right now. They don't have any stars. Omega's done again. They have to hide him in tag matches. He can't go. And you understand why. He wrestled as physical a style as every wrestler learned don't do if you want to have a career. So whatever you get from this point on is gravy. But they have no star power. The show just feels like a runaway train. And this week, you know, at least in the past when they had bad shit, and this has been, again, another bad show, they give you a heads up. Like a few days out, like, oh my God, look at what they fucking booked on Dynamite. This is going to be a shit show. They're not even doing that anymore. They don't even tell you what crap matches are coming up on this show before they happen. And they follow up on nothing. Everyone wanted to make a big deal of that pay-per-view. Meltzer said it was like amazing. Just these matches are amazing. No one came back Wednesday to see what happened. And then the next week, more of the audience died. The Wardlow follow-up died. Everything
I forgot
died.
about him.
Everything on this show, the Death Riders, literal death. Literal ratings death. Audience death. Interest death. And it's just a B-team crew there. And I'm getting mad about it because I've been saying just recently, Tony's got to fight back and Tony's got to give it back to WWE. That's what I would do if I was a fucking billionaire's son with an unlimited budget. But you know what? He's not the one. Like, we have to hope some golden child will come along at some point.
Oh, good Lord.
And fix things with $1 billion or $1 trillion. But it ain't Tony. And he's never going to accept it. There's this embarrassing video of him running. I don't even know what it's from at the ECW arena on Dynamite or after it at the other taping, whatever they were taping. No one takes him serious. I'm sorry, I'm getting all fired up just because it's the state of Dynamite. It's not even about this week's episode. It's the state of all of this.
Here is what the problem is going to be. They have finally gotten to the point after expenditure of tens and hundreds, potentially of millions of dollars, where they're getting paid from the television network, the rights fees. The numbers are going in the wrong direction. And I asked this question when shortly after the rights fee deal was announced. Is there an out? Is there a bar they have to stay above? Certainly, if something happened, the XFL, there was just I saw a documentary the other day, the 30 for 30 they did. Their first game had 50 million viewers.
Yeah, that's right.
And within like fucking 6 weeks or whatever, they were the lowest rated primetime network program in history. If they get to a certain point, which they would appear to be reaching this past week, and they level out there, or even continue to go farther, is there a point where the network says, what the fuck are we doing here? Because Collision, just on Saturday night.
Oh, did you see those ratings?
It was like 190-something thousand people.
Yeah, I'll pull them up when we do Dynamite's ratings later. It's a week of just awfulness.
But that's the point, is their Wednesday night show and Saturday night show together did not equal the viewership that their Wednesday night show alone had 2 years ago. So Tony can't keep, and Tony, and as you said, people he talks or texts to, or people that have the same mindset, let's say, things going on in their minds, that they believe that a large number of people know who was in every faction in New Japan Wrestling 7 years ago. And if we run them all out there and either get them to fucking have a brawl or sometimes just stare at each other, people will buy tickets hand over fist. No.
That's just
go ahead.
It's a depressing state of affairs because it doesn't seem like anything's going to get better. They're not going to all of a sudden get access to top flight stars. There's nothing on the horizon that's going to change anything. And again, it's Tony at the top, booking now for 6 years straight. And he doesn't want to acknowledge the realities. And even if he did, who's he turning it over to? Bryan Danielson? Seriously, who? It's a sad state of affairs right now with AEW, and it doesn't appear like anything's going to get better. It's gotten a whole lot worse, and again, we don't know what Max... Maybe Max was 10 million people this week, but I don't think it was. I don't think it was a couple 100,000 people.
let's give the people an example, because here is how the show started. They're still in the ECW closet. I mean, the ECW arena, 900 people. And the announcers are running down the show. And here comes, I wrote Josh Alexander. Then, it's Gabe Kidd. Do they not look identical? Can you tell the goddamn difference between Josh Alexander and Gabe Kidd?
Gabe Kidd has a little bit more of a slouch.
Okay, so slouchy Kidd.
Josh Alexander has good posture.
Kidd comes out and interrupts the open, gets in the ring and calls out Darby out. And Darby slides into the ring from behind, and Gabe Kidd stops him immediately. But Darby fights back and sticks Gabe Kidd's arm in the top of the ring post. So they got a cheap ring. Their posts aren't capped, but it was creative. But then Gabe Kidd takes back over. And they get in a fight on the floor. Now, meanwhile, there is a smattering of clapping going on. Most of the people are just watching this, like, what already this is going on? And they want to like Darby, but every time that Darby gets started doing something, Gabe Kidd cuts him off. And then he rolled Darby in the ring and went to find something under the ring and yelled at the fans, turned his back so Darby could cough and drop him off the top rope. That got a pop. Then they're back in the ring and Darby charges him to give him the backsplash in the corner, and Gabe Kidd catches him in a choke. And they're having a match disguised as a street fight. They're doing spots now. Here comes Wheeler Useless, and Darby nails him and levels Gabe Kidd and pulls out the thumbtack covered skateboard. And Yuta bends over and waits so he can get up on the turnbuckles and jump off the turnbuckles and skate across his back with the thumbtacks. But then he threatens Gabe Kidd with the board, but he can't do anything because he has to wait for Dick the Boozer, and Boozer's late. But then finally, out comes Boozer with Claudio and Marina Schaefer, and nothing happens. But then the lights go out. And then the new hook music starts playing. Brian, have you ever heard more uninspiring entrance music? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, the Death Riders music.
No, the hook music. Whatever it is, whoever it is, whatever, it's not good. And he comes out and there's no response. It's dead silence.
Yeah, see, the hook music and the whole hook signal thing would work if it was going to be some big, strong maniac that comes out there and kicks everyone's ass, but it isn't.
He's doing the same thing he was doing 5 years ago, and it's not his fault. They need to come up with something different for him to do. They throw the signal, they play this lousy music, he walks out, and then when there's no response from the fans and there's dead silence, they play different music. And Samoa Joe and Hobbs run right past him, past Hook, that is, and get in a fight with all of the horsemen. The people pop for them, but they're doing some kind of thing where Hook doesn't want to be told what to do or how to do it. And he argues later on with Joe and Hobbs, and he's mad he got replaced. Jesus Christ. Anyway, back to this thing. They have a big sloppy fight all over the building. Somehow Willow is out there beating up Marina Schaefer. And then some of them left. Some of them were still in the fight. But then the camera goes to the back and there's Darby Allin and Gabe Kidd again. And in the back of the building, and Gabe Kidd, they're fighting, and he's cutting a phony dramatic promo on Darby Allin and takes a ball-peen hammer and is going to bash Darby's head in. But Darby moves and he sticks the hammer in the wood platform of the thing of the deal. Then Darby goes to a truck and grabs powder and throws powder in Gabe Kidd's eyes.
Yeah, what was that?
Well, that was to blind him so that he could then grab a rag out of the truck and chloroform the motherfucker. They're doing every goddamn Southern wrestling angle, and it was done over a 20-year period at a 5-minute fucking fight. They're in the arena brawl. He has fucking tried the hammer. He powdered his eyes. Now he chloroforms the guy. And while he's unconscious, Darby puts him in a body bag. But the body bag is chained to the back of the pickup truck. Do any of them stop and think when they are coming up with this shit while they're stoned or taking kratom or whatever they're doing, how preposterous this all is when it's all strung together? When they come up with it, or are they oblivious? And then he gets in the truck and basically pulls out with the bag, with Gabe Kidd in the bag chained to the back of the goddamn truck as he pulls him out so that Gabe Kidd can have the fun of doing a movie stuntman stunt. And he drags him off. What the fuck?
There's a lot there. I guess in the beginning, we'll start with the end. The pulling away of him, or with him in the body bag. I mean, that's gotta hurt. The burning, or go over a pebble, just anything.
Well, I think there was some type of surface in the body bag because he wasn't turning over and everything. He was the flat pull, but I don't want to do it.
Here's the thing. They did a lot there. The babyface did a lot.
Well, yes.
To this heel who hasn't been established. And that's weird because he's been in some big matches already. Because he shows up on TV like the week before and you're like, who's that? Oh, it's Gabe Kidd. He's friends with Moxley. Oh yeah, how? Why? He'll be in the match. They don't tell you anything. And he pops up on this show and we're supposed to care. And there's a lot of people like that. They don't establish anyone and then they pop up. They get treated like we're supposed to care and then they disappear.
Well, and the best part, Brian, was before we leave this, you have to remember we had another issue going on because when we left the building, Willow and Schaefer and Joe and Hobbs and Claudio and Kidd and Moxley and the whole Hee Haw gang were just having the big fight, right? After we see Darby pull Gabe Kidd off in the bag, they go back to the arena and the announcers are like, oh boy, we don't know what's going to happen with old Darby. And there's nobody fighting. The whole fight in the building, everybody just, no explanation. They're just gone. It's over. They left. They weren't mad anymore. Whatever. How many people were involved in that thing? We should count some.
Man, how many times have we asked that question in the last few weeks about AEW? Right? The pre-show for the pay-per-view. These giant 8-man, yeah, it is 8-man. I was supposed to say 8-man matches on the show.
Don't give him any ideas. 8 teams, everyone for himself. So anyway, then to continue the pattern of just not getting anybody over, it's just a mess. The next match is for one of the women's titles with Mercedes Moon against Alex Windsor. Alex Windsor has just gotten there. She's got good size. She's a fine, healthy-looking female specimen. She's old Will Ospreay's significant other. I don't know what their legal status is. She's a new, fresh face. She's not nearly as rotten as Megan Brain or Penelope or, any of the other bad indie outlaw Japanese girls that they've featured in the past. More on that in a moment. So maybe she could do something. So here's what they do with her. They put her in a match with Mercedes. With entrances, it goes 20 fucking minutes. Mercedes had a crossface on her for like a minute or so. Windsor gets out of it, but Mercedes just rolls her up 1, 2, 3. The heel beat the babyface clean without cheating and in the most boring way possible. When this is a brand new talent that they might want to push and give some credibility to. So they think it's giving her credibility when she goes 20 minutes. Because they don't see that this is goddamn boring for a television audience to sit there and watch this goddamn forever. But she needs to win. It gets her over by winning. If she can't beat Mercedes, don't book her against Mercedes. But she would get over by winning, not by going 20 minutes and then getting beat by a heel. It's a better wrestler. It doesn't have to cheat. Then you know what she is? She's a loser.
That's the problem. Tony thinks that gets them over.
But then the babyface, who's already been beaten clean in the middle of the ring by the heel without cheating, goes for a handshake. Mercedes gives her the finger. So Alex Windsor says, well, fuck you, and attacks her. And Mercedes hits her with the title belt and knocks her the fuck out and gets her hold again. So now she lost clean. She was disrespected to her face. She started a fight that she ended up getting her ass kicked again. And as she's in this hold and helpless, music plays, and guess who comes out? Riho! Riho is back. And she beat up Mercedes, and Mercedes sold for that. So the ultimate indignity, Windsor gets beat clean. She gets disrespected. She gets her ass beat in a fight that she started. And then she gets saved by a joke wrestler that's half her size. And the girl that she couldn't beat in 20 minutes gets her ass kicked in 30 seconds by this goddamn midget. Thank you for coming, Alex Windsor. Your services are no longer required because what's the point? That's why nobody gets over in this company. Because Tony, his mental condition and his upbringing of dealing with 3 other people on a fantasy wrestling board has not prepared him, imagine that, to get big-time talent over on a big-time television show. Your thoughts, Brian, on Riho?
And again, one of the simple concepts you would think even a fool would get about getting someone over is have them win. That just seems like the most basic, easy concept. I want to try to get this person over. I want people to be interested in them having a big match. They need to win. But we didn't even get there. I'm excited for Riho versus Mercedes Moné. AEW past versus AEW present. We're going to be shocked when Riho is actually bigger than Mercedes, I think. We'll see.
Only in her thighs. Only in her thighs.
You know, did she come through the crowd? When they played her music, did she come through the entranceway or did she come through the crowd?
Well, no, there's really not a lot of difference. There's only 900 people in the building. But no, I think she came out through the entranceway.
Last time she ran out, she had a lead pipe. Remember that? That was one of the most ridiculous visuals ever. It was bigger than her. You know, so much. I said that there's long-term damage with AEW Dynamite at the top. And one of the things has been Mercedes Moné. And I get it that she does have a dedicated fan base, although they're not big enough to matter. And I think that needs to be said. Because they've given her more screen time than probably any woman, maybe more than Toni Storm. They've given her more screen time. They've let her do everything she has wanted to do, which is clearly just acting out her fantasies as a wrestling character that's not believable. But when you look at the things that have led to the slide in television viewers or anything else that's a metric that you look at with AEW, she's one of the guilty parties. And again, it's Tony allowing this, and Tony's the biggest guilty party of them all in terms of the quality of all this. But the Mercedes Moné character is a big part of the problem.
Well, at least we can look forward to the next episode of Monet Mag. Are they still doing that little scam?
Yeah, we'll have to see. It's free, so you can't call it a scam. It's free. They don't have advertising, I don't think. But
what's your time worth to you?
So Will Ospreay's out with his surgery.
Yeah.
And now his significant other got beat a couple times here. And there was nothing really to give you hope about, hope she comes back next week. Like, it was just like, okay, she's done. It felt like. And then Kenny's girl comes back. Yeah, Kenny's girl comes back in the same angle to go after Mercedes. And then he gets stretchered out. That doesn't look good for Riho.
Well, I'm sure he has a whole harem of women hanging around him that can take care of him during his convalescence.
Harem scarum.
Ooh. Speaking of scaring me, Jesus Christ, Mark Briscoe, at some point, he's going to hurt himself. He's still working his ass off. And the people love him, but they keep putting, his promos are good. He came out, cut a promo and said Don Callis looked like Elton John dressed up like a prosthetic penis. And he wants Kyle Felcher and he wants the TNT title. It just, he's working his ass off and he has deserved so much better. The people liked him. They would have liked him more. But now they're just putting him in here to constantly get the shit kicked out of him and fail in the end. And I don't know what they don't see about, they had a chance to have a really great gimmick babyface here. And instead, nevertheless, he does a promo. He wants Kyle for the TNT title, but now Callis says that he's got to beat somebody to get to Kyle, so he wants that guy. And the music plays, and out comes old Don Fallis with Rocky Romero and Lance Archer. And the fans do the thing where they boo over Don and they don't listen to him. And again, it was funny when it was Dominic. And it was cool when it was Dominic, and Dominic wasn't trying to say anything important anyway. They were milking it. But when now they've just decided they're going to do it because they don't give a fuck what these people are saying, you can't get the goddamn angle out. And he said Briscoe's opponent on Saturday. So Mark came out on Wednesday and called out the guy he's supposed to fight. And Don says it's going to be on Saturday. And it's Take a Shit. And his music plays, and he comes out wearing a dress shirt and genie pants. What in the world?
Looked like he was ready to go play golf in the 30s.
I don't know what. Why do they want him to look ridiculous instead of cool and badass? But he gets in the ring, does a face-off with Mark Briscoe, and then gets back out of the ring. And okay, we've established that's the match on Saturday, but now Briscoe cuts another promo, but I want to fight right now. So Rocky Romero volunteers, but Don picks Lance Archer. And so now we've got Mark Briscoe versus Lance Archer. And here's the thing, Lance Archer has all the size. He can do shit. He works like a giant. The problem is he's been booked by Tony Khan for 5 years now. And so nobody whatsoever gives a shit about him or anything that he does. Because why would you with the things that he's done? And he just beats up Mark Briscoe. Whenever Mark is fighting back, the people are with it. Whenever Archer takes over on him, it's dead silence because they love Mark and they don't give a shit about the other guy. And they go a few minutes too long. And Mark hit the froggy bow and won 1, 2, 3. I'd be very interested to see if he beats Take a Shit on Saturday, and he's certainly not going to beat Kyle for the title. So there's Mark Briscoe that could be the answer to so many of their problems if they'd taken care of him from the start 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever it was. Instead, they're starving for baby faces, and he could be a buffet, but he's been booked into the middle. So you got that going for you.
And A, I wouldn't put him over Takeshita right now. And B, if I was going to do that match, I would have put that match on Wednesday night.
Well, they want 198,000 people to see it on Saturday.
You know, I'm talking about things that lead to the long-term damage. Don Callis and his stable, but really him, getting on commentary every time one of his people are out there and he does his shtick. But he's like Robert Fuller in Memphis. Like just all
he's
over
not
this
that
show.
good.
All over
he's
this
all,
show.
He's all over the show, but he's not that good.
And he's not even the booker. And he's all over this show for no reason. And again, there's a lot of central characters who have been all over Dynamite for the last year and a half or so. that are the reason it's an unwatchable show you don't care about.
If Don was a manager, it might be better, but he doesn't manage. He doesn't lead the group in a lot of the promos in terms of advancing their shit. He just does indie sounding stuff. He doesn't manage at ringside. He doesn't interfere in the major match. And when he does, it's a comedy type of thing where he kicks somebody and hurts himself. It's just, there's no manager to it. I don't know what's going on there. Tag team title was on the line, Brian. Bandito and Burger King against Claudio and Wheeler. And I'm sorry, but I refuse. I refuse. I'm not. And here's what they did. 12 minutes in, Dick the Boozer comes out, runs Brody King into the post. They get a 2 count on Bandito. Darby comes out and tackles Moxley, and they get in a fight. And Bandito hit that goofy move that he does on Wheeler, useless 1, 2, 3.
Claudio.
I'm sorry.
Claudio and Wheeler together is, again, one of these things that has been all over this show as everything has died. People do not want to see the Death Riders. I'm sorry I know you like Claudio, and this is not the Claudio of 2010.
I'm tired. This is not the Claudio of the Kings of Wrestling.
That's
this
right.
is the Claudio of the Bane of Wrestling.
Yeah, this is terrible stuff. And Brodito, the fans at least like them and are into them. But Brodito being the tag champions probably is a bigger indictment on the tag team division than it is on either of them as a tag team.
Well, speaking of the tag team division and the tag team roster, they've got a marquee tag team match coming up in Toronto. In Edge and Christian reunited in their hometown against FTR, who they could actually have a decent match with, even though the promotion of it has been so muddled and messy. But then before we even have the match, they start taking the attention away from that match and start muddling it up to where you've seen too much physically. You get distracted by a shiny light on the wall of some other direction, and there's no clear path here. Again, Edge comes to the ring, apparently to do a promo, but before his music stops playing, he's immediately jumped by FTR, who kicked the shit out of him for 15 seconds or so until Christian Cage hits the ring. And they have a 4-way, and they were trying to do a major pull apart with security and other wrestlers and wild violence and chaos. And what they had was a pull apart with a bunch of nameless, faceless security guys and job guys trying to pull these guys apart, where the fans were just sitting there watching. Because they've already seen 3 different arena-wide brawls and goddamn dives off the roof and all this shit. And now 4 guys are having another fight. What's the difference? And nothing was even said before this. It just burst out. And then when they get them separated, Edge and Christian, the baby faces, left first. And Edge was the one that came out to do an interview. Hope he didn't have anything important to say.
Yeah, what was he going to say?
Who knows? He never said it. Because FTR have to be left in the ring because now they get in a fight with one of the job guys that came out to separate them. And they grab one guy and spike pile drive one of the jobbers, and the other one starts fighting them and getting offense. And I'm, what the fuck? And then they go to the break and they come back and they're in the back of the building with FTR and Stokely, and they're starting to cut a promo on Edge and Christian. But almost immediately, Dax is screaming off camera, "Hey, you, come here, come here." And the jobber that they had gotten offense on him comes in and starts apologizing. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I lost my head. I don't know what I was doing. And Cash gets in his face and cuts a promo on him and tells him to get a partner for Saturday. They've got a match coming up on the pay-per-view with Edge and Christian, and they're challenging job guys. What the fuck is happening?
I can't explain it. You know, there has not been a single positive move in the booking of FTR, arguably since CM Punk left. But I don't think it's even tied into that, unless you're going to say Punk was booking them. But just nothing is booked right. The Edge and Christian feud, which should have been a big deal for them, they blew that. And now they reunited. Like you said, why is there anything sidetracking anyone between now and the big match they're going to have? It should be about pounding that match, making it something that people really want to see and have to see, not, oh, well, the FTR get past whoever that guy was. He wasn't even like a big guy or anything. He was smaller than them.
Yes.
I don't know what justifies any of this in any of their minds. And then Stokely, every time he does a serious promo or tries to, you can't take him seriously. Because you've seen too much of him. Overexposure.
What has he done to be taken seriously? A comedy match with Edge, some witty promos about people that they didn't really have a major thing going with. He's never won them anything. He's never gained them any prize or come through in a pinch. He doesn't have any heat. He hasn't ever fucked anybody around.
And with all that said, I'm sure it'll probably be the best match at the pay-per-view. Unless they overcomplicate the finish and try to do too much, it'll be the best match at the pay-per-view.
It will. And the people will love Edge and Christian because it's Toronto. But they've got all this time to promote it, and they've already botched the whole thing up, and they gave away Edge and Christian's first match as a team against job guys. Well, it was supposed to be Nick Plain and Pip. Turned out to be Pip and the fucking Lizard.
Has there been any follow-up to that? Where'd the Lizard go?
I guess he crawled back down to his...
No follow-up. A big return. He got a big pop. Even though he's supposed to be on the heel side, the fans are chanting for him both at Dynamite and the pay-per-view. And then he's just off TV again?
Well, you know, he needs a cold environment. No, he needs a warm environment, right?
Lizard,
they're cold-blooded. They need to be warm.
Yeah. I don't know what you're thinking of.
If they're warm-blooded, they need to be cold. Cold-blooded!
Oh,
Chickens.
Now that's pretty cold-blooded right there.
Well, but you know what? Maybe we're not hearing about everything because we're not listening, Brian. What they need to do is they need to come up with a second audio program on the AEW Dynamite where we can watch what's going on the screen. We can turn down the awful announcers and we can stick in our Raycon Everyday Wireless Earbud Classics to have a second audio program where somebody can explain to us Tony Khan's booking. And that way we'd have everything covered. Or we could actually just listen to some Skinnerd Man on our Raycons and not have to worry about understanding any of it. What do you think?
Maybe some Devo would be more apropos, considering we're talking about the de-evolution of professional wrestling.
Well, we are Devo, D-E-V-O. And folks, Raycon's Everyday Earbuds are EARBUDS earbuds. And they're packed with upgrades, UPGR,
We're through
upgrades.
Being cool. Let's get back to the spot.
Okay, well, this message is sponsored by Raycon. And of course, you know that because we're telling you how great their products are. And, it's back to school time. Kids are going back to school. They've gone back to school. You remember back to school shopping when you were a kid? It was always the first sign of the apocalypse. You didn't want to buy those notebooks, those fucking pencils, those goddamn crayons. You might have wanted the new shoes, but you didn't want any of the rest of it because you knew what it meant. Well, now that you're an adult...
You had a problem with crayons?
Well, only where I have to take the crayons and utilize the crayons in the gulag known as elementary school. Where all the little small human beings are herded together and stuck there all day. But now that you're an adult, you don't have to go to school. But you can still buy yourself new stuff and start over fresh with brand new things in the fall. And that's why we encourage you to go to Buy Raycon, BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com right now And take a look at what they've done. The Everyday Earbuds Classics have been re-released and packed with upgrades, the active noise cancellation, the multi-point connectivity, the super comfortable ergonomic fit. You remember about those ergonomics, Brian.
Of course.
These things are ergonomic, and if you put a little Vaseline on them and put them in that hole, just twirl them around just right, well, boy, howdy, it'll trip your trigger and tickle your taint.
No, we're talking basic ergonomics, and Jim, we're talking Raycon.
Well, basic ergonomics, word life, pal. And they've got a new cool mint color for all of you green-skinned people out there. Plus, they got up to 32 hours of battery life, a quick charge for 90 minutes in just 10, and they've got an awareness mode. Let's say you're out walking the dog, but you want to be aware of your surroundings in case somebody's coming up from behind you with a ball-peen hammer like on AEW. Well, when that happens, you're going to get an electric shock in your earbuds that indicates you need to turn around and duck the swing. And then, once you take the hammer away from whoever is attacking you while you're turning their brains into jelly, you can listen to the finest tunes from Jelly Roll. See how that works? I use the Raycons and the ball-peen hammer, and you should too, ladies and gentlemen.
Let's not talk about that. Hey, Jim.
Yes.
Oh, you hear that chime? You know what that chime means? That chime means it's time for a deal for the listeners.
Right to the point. Well, what you can do is go to buyraycon.com/JCE. Right now, you're going to get 20% off site-wide. That means from one end of the site to the other. And boy, it's a wide site. 20% off anything they got in the place. Buyraycon.com/JCE. Get those new earbuds for, well, you're not going back to school. But now that the kids are back to school, buy something for yourself. You get to spend the day in some relative peace and quiet without those little crumb-snatching rugrats around. Celebrate.
With Raycon.
Yeah.
I think is what we want to say there.
Yes.
Raycon! And of course, one more time, that promo code, Jim.
Buyraycon.com/JCE, 20% off. And you know, you don't get that every day. See what I did there?
Very good. Well, let's whip it back over to AEW Dynamite.
Whip it good. Well, let's see if this was indeed what finally put the nail in the coffin of the ratings for this week, because now they haven't done it enough, Brian. Over the course of the recent weeks, they had to come up with another random 8-man tag where a bunch of people can do a bunch of moves and then they hospitalize somebody at the end of it. That's basically the main event. Sometimes the faces change. You had Josh Alexander, who I thought for a minute was Gabe Kidd. You had Kyle Felcher and you had the Hardley Boys teamed up against Kevin Knight, Hong Kong Phooey, Hangnail Page, and Kenny. Don't forget about Kenny. It is... What differentiates this from anything else they do? Any other these 8-man matches where nobody follows any rule, there's no story told, there's no point made. It's a chance for everybody to do as many of their various athletic tricks and stunts as they can until somebody wins. And this is the same kind of forgettable shit that they've been presenting on and off, mostly on, since they've been on the air, which is why so many people have given up, because what else can you fucking see? They started at 20 minutes until 10, and they were still going at 10 o'clock because they got to do the overrun. Because early on it helped their average, but I think lately it's a toss-up as to whether it helps the average or hurts. But soon as they get past 10, they go 2 minutes into the overrun, and they hit Kevin Knight with 3 big moves in a row at 1, 2, 3. They always beat Kevin Knight. They never beat the little girl that's his tag team partner. Then, I know this is surprising to you, but then the heels start to get more heat. And the Hardley Boys get in a fight with Hong Kong Phooey and Kevin Knight, and they fight off. So those 4 went somewhere. But here comes Lance Archer and Rocky Romero. And they start all kicking the shit out of Kenny and Hangnail, along with Kyle and Josh. And then they set a chair up in the ring, and Kyle brainbusters Paige on the chair. Now, that's not the hospitalization angle. They just wanted to get one of the baby faces out of the way with something simple so they could do the angle where they really injure somebody. So the one guy's been brainbustered on a fucking chair in the middle of the ring just to get him out of the way. Then they set a table up on the floor, and all four of the heels get on Kenny. And this was way slower than it sounds. And then Kyle gives Kenny, it was supposed to be a brain buster, but it was a vertical suplex, bad enough, off the apron of the ring, through a table, and almost killed the both of them. And then they do the same thing that how many shows have they done it lately? It was twice on the pay-per-view, wasn't it? I think they carried somebody out on TV the week before last, but out comes the neck brace, out comes the doctors, and they neck brace Kenny, and they fucking cart him off to go to Swerve Land and Osprey Land and whoever else. Again, I can't remember the list. In the last month. Why is any of this expected to mean anything? Or does Tony just, because of his condition, have to tie up all these loose ends, no matter whether it's good for business or not?
Well, I don't think this tied up any loose ends.
Well, I mean, as far as, we're not going to have Kenny on TV for a month because he's going for some type of planned medical deal and to renew his Japanese visa. Because Lord knows, he doesn't want to get shut out of Japan. Okay, he's gone to Japan to do publicity and renewing his visa. You don't have to break his neck when you just broke 3 necks last week.
And we bring up lack of star power. This match is a perfect example. The Young Bucks don't mean shit. Speedball Mike Bailey as a main eventer. How's that working out?
Oh, good God.
As a main eventer, how's that working out? And now the Bucks will go have a match with them, and they'll do all their flips and kick out of everything, and people will rave about it, and no one will give a shit. The next day, everyone will forget about it and move on. And it won't draw a number, and no one will buy a ticket to see it. It's just another meaningless thing on this show. The Callis family's death. Like Rocky Romero just being a member there doesn't seem like all of a sudden he's there. He's like barely on this show. This show is in a sorry death fall right now, and I don't see anything on the horizon that could pull it out. I only see things that's going to damage more people when they're on this show. MJF was pretty much away from this entire episode. The Hurt Syndicate had a backstage promo.
Oh, I forgot about that. They were in the back for a minute and a half talking about a 6-man in Toronto with Ricochet and his 2 preliminary guy stooges. So they got MVP in the ring, and instead of it making a difference to force MVP in the ring against somebody, they said, okay, we'll do it with Ricochet and his job guys.
And then they lay out Omega during the overrun where less people will see it than any other point of the show. And unless you think people are going to go search for this on YouTube, and again, everything's down. Interest in AEW is down. We've seen it. It's down. And you can understand why. It's a rough show to get through. They have no star power. The limited stars they have get hurt and disappear. And the booking is just mightily frustrating.
Well, that's why they're in the shape they're in. And before we get to the shape they're in, Brian, which is the big story, the ratings of this week, I guess they had an unscheduled Super Bowl opposite them. But what in the world are the highly rated programs on the Arcadian Vanguard Network doing this week?
It doesn't have to be the Super Bowl. Remember the Little League World Series kicked our ass a few weeks ago. Little League. Go get information about all the shows on Twitter at Superpodcast, on Facebook, facebook.com/Arcadian Vanguard. Of course, each and every day, the wrestling news is there for you. TheWrestlingNews.com directly, or wherever you find your favorite podcast. No clickbait, no paywall, just the wrestling news. Want to make mention of Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, a look at 1985, 40 years ago in Mid-South Wrestling. McAdamPod.com, or look for Stick to Wrestling with John McAdam, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. And of course, the 605 Super Podcast, The Mothership! Yeah, there's some house guests here that don't know what just happened. Go through the archive, 605pod.com, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Your sound effect crapped out, but we will crap on you.
So you got house guests. How much you charging them?
Not enough.
So, the ratings for Dynamite. I got me a piece of paper here.
Well, before we get there, Jim,
yes.
I think part of the story is Collision on Saturday, although technically part of a different week. That was a big story that I was going to talk to you about before the Dynamite story happened.
Well, that's true, because that Collision was the night before their big event, correct? Their pay-per-view extravaganza. Or was it? No, it was the one after. It was the week after.
It was the week after.
It's the one we're talking about.
That's right.
So after their big pay-per-view, not only were the Dynamite ratings down last week, but then this was the first Collision after the pay-per-view, and they did somewhat stunning record lows. Is this correct?
I don't know if you could say somewhat stunning at this point, but 195,000 viewers on average for Collision on August 30th, 2025, 8 to 10 p.m. The lowest non-preemption Collision in the history of the show, and for the key demo, 18 to 49, it's tied with February 1st, 2025, as the lowest of the non-preemption episodes, according to WrestleNomics, down 31% from last week, which was 281. We'll break down what was on this show, what people didn't want to see, but, you know, you've always talked about the network, and so many people want to focus on the streaming priorities of the network. The numbers keep going down. They can't be ignored. The key demo is disappearing. That's the bigger problem, maybe.
Well, with Collision, 195,000 viewers on a Saturday night from 8 to 10 o'clock. I know there's been attrition on the TV audience in general, but that can't be, even that low cannot be acceptable to the network if it becomes a pattern. And 281 ought to be in that general range as well of unacceptable for a Saturday night primetime telecast, even in today's sorrowful television environment.
Would you have watched this show? Here are the quarter hours compiled by WrestleNomics. August 30th, 2025, Collision, Saturday night. 8 to 8:15 p.m., quarter one. Daniel Garcia versus Blake Christian. Post-match with the Death Riders. The Conglomeration backstage. The Paragon backstage, or maybe they're together. The Callis family versus the Conglomeration. 219,000 viewers. Quarter two, 8:15, 8:30. Continuation of that match. Post-match, picture-in-picture. Jamie Hayter, Tekla angle. 199. Bottoming out at 43,000 in the key demo. 43,000.
Eesh.
Quarter three, 8:30, 8:45, an ad break. The Matriarchy backstage angle. And the start of Jay Lethal versus Hologram with picture-in-picture and full-screen ads. 179, that's the low of the show.
Good Lord. And also, and poor Jay Lethal, and I forgot he worked there. And we got to look at what we got to look at on Wednesday nights, but we can't ever see Jay Lethal wrestle. And when he does wrestle, he's in there with Monogram.
And if you saw him on Wednesday night, it would hurt the number because of the way he's been used since he got there. He doesn't matter on Saturday, doesn't matter on Wednesday. But no one matters. I mean, that's the other problem. We go to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. The finish of Lethal versus Hologram. Post-match, Ricochet promo, ad break, Alex Windsor versus Ashley Vox. Post-match, Don Callis, Mark Briscoe backstage angle. 188,000, so a big jump back up to 188,061 in the key demo. 9 o'clock hour, 9 to 9:15 p.m. FTR versus Adam Priest and JD Drake. A picture-in-picture, a post-match, and a Death Before Dishonor recap. 186,000 viewers. So far, would you watch this show?
I don't even know who half these people are.
9:15 and 9:30 p.m., quarter 6, an ad break, Callis family backstage promo, and the start of Juice Robinson versus Big Bill. I forgot about him.
Or Juice.
And Big Bill, where's he been? With picture-in-picture and full-screen ads, 184,000.
Well, the answer is he's been over on Collision that nobody watches, not just us, but nobody else either.
Well, we have 2 more quarters here, Jim. Quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m., Juice Robinson versus Big Bill continued. Skyflight backstage angle. Who's Skyflight? I don't know. Gabe Kidd backstage promo, an ad break, and the start of Mina Shirakawa and Queen Aminata and Tony Storm versus Billy Starks and the Triangle of Madness. 200,000 viewers. Final quarter, 9:45.
Billy Starks is a draw.
9:45 to 10 p.m., Mina Shirakawa is a draw. The final quarter, continuation of that match, and the post-match with Tekla, 208,000 viewers.
So, to be honest, I think this is the first time I could ever remember where the 2 highest rated quarter hours were the first one and the last one. And in the middle was Drek. They, 3 quarters over 200,000 people out of 8 on a Saturday night from 8 to 10. What? All righty then.
And again, you're not presenting programs that even your fans want to go out of their way to see. Max be damned.
But hey, Brian, at least the Wednesday night ratings are holding up.
Oh, yeah. The Wednesday night ratings for AEW Dynamite this past week, September 3rd, 2025, on TBS, 8 to 10:06 p.m., on average, watched by 472,000 viewers. A .11 in the key demo. Lowest cable audience and key demo audience for a regularly airing episode of Dynamite in the history of the show.
Okay, was there a run-through of the Super Bowl on another channel? Was there a major sporting event, a live broadcast of goddamn beheading? Somebody said that Uncle Dave said, well, the U.S. Open tennis tournament was big, but you know, it still should have been that big. You think any of these people are watching tennis?
Dave makes a lot of excuses for Tony Khan not being capable of booking this. And then he jumps on any success and pretends like it disproves everything else, ignoring everything in front of his face that everyone sees.
So we have no indication that there was a major program that would appeal to the AEW audience past the U.S. Open tennis tournament that was against this thing. We need to find out whether this was just something that happened, and next week maybe they'll be back up to 600,000, or whether this is the start of another trend. But it ain't good this close after a major pay-per-view where all of their entire top babyface side of the roster got wiped out and sent to the goddamn health facilities.
Now, again, it is important to note, I don't have them in front of me, but NXT's numbers have been down the last several weeks, apparently. And you just talked on the show about being chosen to be a Nielsen home. If you were just chosen, you got to think other people were just chosen.
You think they're switching the people around?
I mean, we joke around. Could this be as simple as there are less wrestling fans who are Nielsen homes right now than there were 2 weeks ago?
Well, but no, because think about this. Hold on here 1 second. They don't just change the homes every goddamn 5 years. It's a regular ongoing thing. So there's almost no way that suddenly they could make enough changes to take away 25% of this goddamn audience of this show that has a 5-year track record behind it of a pattern of a certain amount of viewership, and they don't all go away and stay away. It fluctuates, but they lose people over a gradual period of time. So I don't think one change is going to take away 200,000 fucking people. But, again, we'll see what happens week to week. But no, there's something else going on here. I think people are just fucking tired. They're like, what else are they going to do?
Well, listen to this. This is down 19% from last week, which was 585. 26% off the 4-week average, which is 638. So again, this is not just like a 1-week blip. This is coming off last week seemingly being the 1-week blip. And we've taken another hit down, a big hit down.
They have further blippage to go. But where did they start? Because again, the last few weeks that they've been down, it's been more of a steady audience throughout, where they don't start big and then lose a ton. They start smaller and keep more of them, but it's still fewer in the long run. So what did they do this week? Did they start high and plummet, or did they just never have them to begin with?
Well, we go to quarter one. These were compiled by WrestleNomics, Dynamite on September 3rd, 2025, quarter one, 8 to 8:15 p.m. The Gabe Kidd, Darby Allin, Death Riders Ops Live angle, and the start of Mercedes Moné versus Alex Windsor, 521,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay, they started low and stayed there. That's the lowest open in the history of the show, isn't it?
I think so. I think it has to, for a non-preempted episode, as they say, maybe. Quarter two, 8:15, 8:30 p.m., the continuation of Moné versus Windsor, picture-in-picture, and the post-match with Riho, 506,000 viewers.
So they lost 15,000, and they ought to consider themselves blessed at that, because after you see Riho, you gotta go. Did they go?
Well, we go to quarter three, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. The Ops promo, an ad break, Ricochet and the Gates of Agony promo, and the Mark Briscoe Callis family live angle, 487,000 viewers.
Yeah, Riho got them to go.
We go to quarter four, 8:45 to 9 p.m. Mark Briscoe versus Lance Archer with picture-in-picture, Tony Storm's promo, an ad break, and the Harley Cameron Chris Statlander promo, 483,000 viewers.
Well, at least probably Mark Briscoe was able to hold them steady. They thought, well, we won't go anywhere as long as he's around. But they've gone from 521 to 483. They've lost 38,000. That's not a big number, but when you start with 500,000, it's not helping.
Well, it's now time for the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter five, 9 to 9:15 p.m. Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta versus Bro Dito with picture-in-picture, 475,000 viewers.
They're hanging in there. They got their fingernails dug in on the edge of the cliff, and they're not going to let go.
We go to quarter six, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. Kazuchika Okada's promo, an ad break, the Hurt Syndicate's promo, and the Cope FTR Christian live angle, as well as a Garcia Moxley video, and an ad break, 440,000 viewers.
Well, it looks like one of the fingernails just broke off.
We go now to quarter seven, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Young Bucks, Josh Alexander and Kyle Fletcher versus Adam Page, Jet Speed, and Kenny Omega with picture-in-picture, 440,000 viewers.
That's the exact same number. So apparently everybody was just full after a big meal and didn't want to make any moves.
Well, we go now to quarter eight. I remind you, a 6-minute overrun. Quarter eight, 9:45 to 10 p.m. Continuation of the 8-man tag match with picture-in-picture, 441,000 viewers. 6-minute overrun.
They actually eked out an extra 1,000 people. Go ahead.
6-minute overrun, 422,000 viewers for the post-match.
So, in a way, that's not bad. 521 to 422, that's 99,000 people. If you look at it in a positive fashion, that's the smallest number of viewers that they have ever lost over the course of a television show. It's also the smallest number they've ever started with, and potentially the smallest number they've ever ended with on a regularly scheduled program. Ooh.
This is not looking good. WWE keeps running against them. They just changed the time of their pay-per-view in Toronto because they know they're going to get crushed. I mean, they're putting what? AJ Lee in a match, Brock Lesnar in a match,
Cena.
I mean, it's a big show. AEW has no star power. And then you see this thing.
And the AEW has moved their pay-per-view start time to 3 p.m, but already Uncle Dave, who, as we know, is the mouth organ for Tony Khan's brain, is already said, oh, yeah, I'm sure they'll run long, so they run into, like they're going to do damage to the WWE show with this dog and pony outfit that they've got right now. They're going to run long to try to make people not want to buy the WWE show. WWE is Brock Lesnar and John Cena. They've got a mixed tag with Punk and AJ Lee and Rollins and Becky. They've got all the promotion and this giant audience watching. They're just going to run this pay-per-view 6 hours for no reason to keep 22 people their attention that aren't going to switch over to watch WWE. Everybody that's going to watch WWE is going to watch WWE first. First and foremost, I mean, not just because it comes on second.
By the way, same thing the other way. Like AEW have their fans that don't give a fuck about the WWE show. They're upset the show was moved because they don't care about WWE. They just want to see their show. But everything right now.
What about how many of these people you think were driving in that day from like out of town and now they're like, what the fuck? We got to leave at 6 a.m? Ay. Well, there you go, pal.
It's not looking
another
good.
case of there you are.
It's not looking good. Right now, Tony Khan needs to be doing better than he has, and he's doing worse than he has, and not good.
You know, we always said we were going to be up and cheerful and bright and happy and peppy and bursting with love. And he brings us down. He brings us down. I feel so low. Would you like to feel better, Brian?
Yeah.
Then let's end the show.
Yeah.
Folks, thanks for listening. And hopefully next week, Brian's lip will not be fat. And my mood will be elevated, and we will have another fine episode. And don't forget that the drive-thru is coming up in another few days, and we'll do all kinds of wonderfully fun stuff then and there, too. But in parting, for the Jim Cornette Experience, I'm Jim Cornette. He's Brian Last. Thank you, fuck you, and bye-bye, everybody.